Hey, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. We've got a great show here lined up for Saturday afternoon, and I'm excited to have somebody on the channel who we've not had on in a live presentation before, but he actually, Mr. Richard Pace, did a Page I Love segment with Kevin Sharp. I believe we aired that maybe a few months back. So technically, this is his second appearance on the channel, and I want to welcome him to the show right now. Hey, Richard, how you doing?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
I am fantastic. It's nice to meet you. I mean, I've been a fan of your work for a while, and it's we've just never had a chance to talk about your career, talk about art, and I'm glad that you're able to spend some time with me today.
I'm more than happy to talk to anyone about art, any art. My art I admire, which I prefer, honestly. I'm too honest about how much I despise my own art. So, not despise is too strong a word. I'm always disappointed. I'm like a dad who expected more from his son.
All right. Well, that might tie into Second Coming in some weird way when we get to talking about that. Which I did. I don't read as much comics as I used to, but I did read the first 6 issues to Second Coming. I didn't read any of the Trinity stuff that we have pieces from today. But
had I known that, I would have sent you the first few trades with the artwork.
That you're stirring everybody gives me a hard time because people have sent me trades when I say I haven't read something, and I usually get in trouble because people are like, "Bill's just trying to lobby for a trade to be sent to him in the mail."
Well, it's too late now. Maybe next year we can do this again.
But the thing is, I read the first 6 issues of it, and I really enjoyed it. If I had time, I would have gone ahead and read through the remaining books, the Trinity books. I can't remember the name of the
Only Begotten Son.
Yes, that's right. Because I'm at the pivotal point. She's pregnant at the end of issue 6. So
it was really interesting. So I'd taken a long break from comics. I decided to make some effort to come back because I realized after being away, it's really what I wanted to do. And I did some covers for Imaginary Fiends because Tim Seeley suggested me, and I think they turned out really well. We thought there was going to be a whole bunch of arcs of Imaginary Fiends, but then Vertigo imploded. Then my editor from Imaginary Fiends said, "Hey, do you want to work on the next Preacher?" And I'd have to be a complete moron to say no. What she didn't do is say it's not really Preacher; it's just another controversial book. With a lot more empathy and a lot more thoughtfulness than Preacher ever managed to get. So it's been a really interesting experience. It was really great. The first arc was really great. Coming back doing actual comics after that much comics after such a long layoff. But what I realized is, were you a fan of Sandman from around the time it started?
Only a little. I was not reading comics at the time when Sandman came out. I had this period in time when I went to college that I stopped buying comics, and then it wasn't until the late 90s when I got back into it. So I've read a fair amount of Sandman, but I wasn't reading it coming out, off the shelf or anything, unfortunately.
All right. So my comment from Sandman is actually from the artist standpoint. Sam Keith was the original inker on Sandman. Mm-hmm. And in many ways, he was the finisher of it. And then he left suddenly. And a lot of people were surprised at that because Sandman was becoming a hit. And when asked about it, Sam Keith said he felt like he was Jimi Hendrix trying to jam with the Beatles, and it just wasn't working. And what I realized pretty much after the first arc of Second Coming is my storytelling sensibilities. I could do Mark, right? Mark has a very, very specific approach to storytelling, and I can parse his scripts. I can add the beats when needed, so his jokes land a little bit better. I can add detail, like the food court sequence. I mean, I completely tore apart those 2 pages as written, and I did a little chart with all the little signs and everything, right? Just to deliver the joke in a way that really, really works. And don't take that as a dig as Mark. I mean, he's a writer, not an artist, so he can't see those things. But I realized very, very early on, I mean, because I stepped back to just doing all the old stuff, and then I just stepped back to doing the layouts. Leonard Kirk, his sensibilities to the material was far more important than my desire to get more money out of this project. So it was a smart and easy choice for me to back off to just do the layouts and really, really, really focus on delivering Mark's story as best as possible. And then the benefit of having Leonard there is Leonard is also a brilliant storyteller and artist. And when he makes changes, they're always for the better. So I think we got like, I went from being, let's say, the drummer for the book to being the producer, right?
Nothing wrong with that at all.
Singer, and Leonard's the rest of the band. And Troy's doing the colors, so I guess that makes him the keyboardist. It's limits. But I think I found the best role in Second Coming and the covers, because I love doing covers. I'm not going to let those go. I think I do really good covers. that may
yeah, no, they're fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I assume the scripts were pretty fully fleshed out, right? Because there's a lot of dialogue in at least in the first 6 issues that I read. So
it doesn't change.
Yeah. Okay, but so when you're getting those scripts, though, they're not kind of half written.
No, they're full scripts. I still make
full script, right?
Mark. I think after the first arc, there's one point. I terrified everyone when we're at Vertigo with one page, and then the people at Ahoy were worried about it. Mark made a typo in the first issue when he talked about the tree of good and evil. He went the trees of good and evil. And that just set my brain going. It's like, well, if the trees of knowledge of good and evil are essentially about awareness of sexuality, I made, if you remember, I made like one very male tree and one very female tree, and
yes,
I modified the fruit. And Mark was worried. Mark was very worried about that. My editor at Vertigo was very worried about that. And then when we went to Ahoy, Tom Pyre was very worried about that. And I dug in. And they were like, oh, who the fuck is this guy digging in? I mean, come on. But I dug in, and I usually don't read reviews, but I was really worried about the first issue, Second Coming. So I read all these reviews, and almost every single review talked about how Mark was brilliant in doing the sequence of the trees of knowledge of good and evil. So all
it was a typo. They got it started.
Well, that you take your if something pushes you to do something, follow your instinct. If it's a bad instinct, fix it. But sure. I think that sequence worked out really, really well because it had that kind of like, to my mind, everyone was expecting this outrageous book, and it's not. It's a very subtle book. It has some really good funny bits in it, I believe. But everyone, and there are all these people who were so angry that how dare we do this? And then we had this equal contingent who were fighting back on social media, all these other platforms against people angry about the book. And I said, if we don't give the people defending us a little something, a little bit of red meat to justify their defending us, they'll be disappointed. So I felt drawing, vagina and penis fruit was a little nod to the people who were like defending us against the people convinced we were going to make, Jesus the butt of jokes. And I mean, I'm okay in the 4th volume. We still have yet to make a joke about Jesus. Everything's a joke about all the Christians who don't really follow his rules, and our Superman archetype, who's an asshole. So,
yeah, he definitely. You get the sense that that's where it's headed in the first 6 issues. But
it's
things change.
Sunstar becomes a better human. And the commentary on contemporary Christianity is going in interesting ways, but it feels like the stories are diverging a bit. So I'm really interested. I don't want to spoil anything, but we have a situation in the beginning of Arc 4, which is heartbreaking for Sunstar and Sheila and their kid. And Jesus is off kind of doing his own thing. He's still there emotionally supporting both of them. But it's very much they're on their own journeys at this point, so it's pretty interesting.
Well, I am definitely looking forward to reading it. And for those of you who haven't read Second Coming and any of the iterations of it since it came out, it's an interesting read. I think it was a little bit controversial when it came out. There was probably it was a risk in some weird ways, I think, for both you and Mark, but you've kind of persevered, and I think a lot of people kind of commended the work, and Mark definitely presented his thoughts on the project and his approach and why he felt it was a viable story to tell, within the end pages, definitely in the first couple issues, and it all made sense. You know, there wasn't really much to be offended about it. It was definitely a creative, fun approach. And Stingray's right. It's like the same vein of Monty Python's Life of Brian. You know, it is it's a fun read, and there's enough nods to things that, you know, the archetypes that I think we've all grown up with one way or another, and looking at them in a slightly different way, or in a way in which helps you realize that, oh yeah, I've been thinking like that all along. I just never had anybody in written or comic book or a narrative arts form put it to me in a way that I could understand why I had those same thoughts or something. So I enjoy it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to do that sort of thought process or thought exploration in satire than in straight prose. In straight prose, you're just going to anger people and get assassinated. Satire, you'll get the death threats, but no one will follow through because you're doing it for jokes. So, I did get death threats. I did get.
You didn't get any death threats. Did you get any hate mail or?
No, I got death threats. I got, there were some angry people on social media. I no direct emails of just angry at me. The email, they found my email, not that hard to find. And they sent me like anonymous, I'm going to come up to Canada, I'm going to kill you. And it's like, I'm looking at it, it's like, I've been online enough to know that if they're going to tell you they're going to kill you, they're not going to kill you.
Right. And they're probably not even reading the comic either.
No, they're not. They're not.
They're just getting everything secondhand. And
yeah.
No, that's
they're angry at the idea more than anything else.
Yeah.
Like how dare you make Jesus the most sympathetic character in a book? How dare you make him the most thoughtful character who wants compassion and empathy for everyone? How dare you be a little upset with his Old Testament father? I mean, it's like, come on, guys, pay attention.
Exactly. No,
but
I mean, it is a wonderful read.
It really is. And I think the best part of the experience of being with us for so long is Mark doesn't write anyway the same way I do. I mean, my stories are a lot angrier. Like I tend towards horror and dark fantasy. I mean, if I was writing this book, at some point, Sunstar would have a fist fight with God because he blew up his planet. Why didn't you stop that? Right? But that's not there. That's nowhere near the realm of possibility in Mark's world, and I appreciate it for that.
Cool. Well, you know, now that you mentioned, you know, horror and you know, dark fantasy, those sorts of things. I mean, I kind of want to go back to talk a little bit about your career and how you got started as in comics, and even before that, what made you want to become an artist and storyteller, you know, in this art form, and you know, and where the roots of those you know, those genres, those darker genres, kind of became part of your I don't know, vocabulary as an artist.
I think I've told this before, but I like telling it. I think I didn't know I loved drawing as a kid. Most kids do. And I was the kid who drew well, but I didn't understand if it had value. But I was walking through a local bookstore when I was about, I want to say 10, maybe 11. And I walked into the art section, which was usually kind of boring. I mean, I liked Rembrandt. I liked Michelangelo. But a lot of the other stuff just came across as just done. And I couldn't stand modern art at that age. It just was incomprehensible to me. But this day, the bookstore had all 3 volumes at this point of The Fantastic Art of Frank Frazetta. And I saw the Egyptian Queen cover, and I describe it as my eyes falling out of my head. I couldn't stop looking at it. I was like glued to it, and I picked it up, and I'm looking at this book, and I open up, and then there's like the introduction and like the background of Frank Frazetta, which is really succinct, and it skipped a bunch of stuff. But I went, oh my God, I could have a career like this. Not that I could be ever as good as Frank Frazetta, but I could have a career like this. There was like a little template. Go find someone to teach you how to draw better. Do some comics, do book covers. You're good. That was like in my young adolescent mind. That was a career path. And so suddenly I have all the Frank Frazetta books, and I'm just like ogling, and I'm copying, and I'm using crayons or colored pencils in the U.S. To try and mimic his paintings terribly. And I realized, you know what? He did the comics thing, so I should really start reading some comics. The last time I read comics was in the early mid 70s, for card trips when you're going on a family road trip, we get these big plastic baggies full of older DC Marvel books, like the giant sizes and everything. So that was my only experience of comics. So I had a friend who was really into comics in the mid 80s, and he took me to my first comic store. And anyone who knows that mid 80s period of comics history, like when Love and Rocks is around, Cerebus is at its peak. We have Ronin just wrapping up. We're on the cusp of Alan Moore coming over to American comics. And we have this flex of indie artists doing mainstream comics and mainstream comics doing indie comics, like Chaykin doing.
Right. I'm just going to mention Chaykin. You've got
huge influence.
Yeah, it was a wonderful, wonderful creative moment, I think, for because just so everybody knows, Richard and I are the same age, and so I want to say that those 3 Frazetta books were transformative for me as well. I mean, I wanted to be an artist as well, but the gold foil, I'm sure we're talking about the same. Those same art books. I mean, when they came out, when I first discovered those, I couldn't believe it. I don't think I knew who Frazetta was at that point either. But when I got those, I have those books today because they were that amazing to come across. And like you go into the B. Dalton or whatever the heck we had, those small bookstores that I discovered Frazetta before I even just walked into my first comic book shop as well. Because that was where we went to get our anything creative, anything that related to the arts. So
it was a mind blowing. I mean, like that was my first experience. No, actually, no, that's a lie. My first experience of heavy metal was when I was about 8. I think it was 8 when the first issue came out. And I went grocery shopping with my grandmother, and I was looking and said, "Can I buy a comic or a magazine?" And she went, "Yeah, sure, just go grab something." So I'm looking. And there's the first issue of Heavy Metal with Ben and the Kaza story about the girl running across the desert and eating fruit and then becoming pregnant with the fruit, but she's naked the entire time. Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Oh, can I have this?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure." She didn't look at it. I'm reading this book. I'm just looking at this art. And so much of it's over my head, but it was just brilliant artwork, page after page after page. Then my brother saw it and he fucked everything up.
Younger or older brother?
My older brother. Yeah. We're estranged, not because of that. But he looked at it and he says, "Does Mom know you're reading this?" I went, "No. Mamé bought it for me. I'm French." And so he went and tattled. So it took like several years and I got back into heavy metal. And like Den had just returned to heavy metal and Sigrelis was doing The Mercenary. And it was just brilliant. And I was like spending all my allowance. I was like doing like whatever little job I could get for extra money to buy comics. And I had fallen in love with comics when it was supposed to just be an accidental, step towards becoming a cover artist along the lines of Frazetta. And then that made the decision. I went to art school. I was supposed to go into theater, but art school just really, really called to me. And in art school, they hated Frazetta. Mainly because they were tired of seeing people come in who loved Frazetta. Mm-hmm. And so they tried to, they were tired of seeing fantasy. They were tired of seeing like people copying Wrightson's Frankenstein. They were tired of all that. And they kept on saying, you won't have a career if you keep aping that stuff. And they tried to get the comics out of me. In the first 2 years, it kind of worked. I was still buying and reading them, but I was kind of like, okay, maybe I'll, because it's like I was already, even in college, I was getting interest from magazines in Ontario book publishers to do illustration because I was one of the better kids, but I wasn't great by any stretch of the imagination, but I was one of the better kids in the program. So I got some work that way. But by the time I was wrapping up the program, I was like, fuck, man, I really want to do comics. This is, I mean, it's like at this point, Vertigo is about to launch. Like Sandman's already out. Alan Moore's Swamp Thing is hitting bizarre levels of creativity with Swamp Thing in space. Every other company was like, let's experiment. Dark Horse was doing all the licensed stuff that was just brilliant. I'm mixing up some of the timelines. Dark Knight had, of course, finished, but we were about to see like the resurgence of Dark Horse with Miller and everyone working there.
Right.
And I just went, this industry is nowhere near what it was when I first got interested in comics. How can I not try? So then I tried, and that was terrible, but I eventually got in anyway.
So what was your first gig? I mean, I can go to comics.org and see what they list. And what do they have listed over there? I think
Probably Vampire Lestat.
Well, they have something called Roadkill listed.
Oh, a little black and white indie that was produced by some friends in the town my college was. I think it had the circulation of maybe 2.
Well, somehow they've got the cover scanned from it, but
I didn't do it. Right. I didn't do the cover. I just did a little story in it.
Right, but after that, you're right. It's Nosferatu, Anne Rice, a few of those things. So but that we haven't really talked about. So horror was just always something that was in your blood. I guess.
I found that in terms of work that just hit me the most, like Alan Moore's Swamp Thing run was possibly the best horror comics in comics history at that point. I think elements of Preacher, Hellblazer, the horror comics that were coming out at that time, more so than the EC retreads, the Bruce Jones stuff, which is beautiful to look at, but the stories are so predictable and they didn't really have any heft to them. They were like, here's a couple, they're on a beach. Oh no, there's a monster. Oh, they're dead. Right. I mean, that sums up like Forbidden Worlds and all that stuff but it's like, you'd have someone like, Bernie Wrightson or Bruce Jones, or not Bruce Jones, Scott Hampton, draw the story, and it'd be absolutely gorgeous to look at. But it would be like, it's like a confection as opposed to like a meal. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but I love the idea of doing horror. And then comics, like the Vampire Lestat was an interesting experience, ultimately a bad one, because Innovation Comics was a horror show of a publisher. Derek Gross was penciling the pages because they're so far behind, and I was going to paint them. And so I'm busting my ass doing these paintings, and I send it in, and then someone tells me to read something in like this little comic they put as a promo filler for the book. And they talked about how they cut the artwork so they could scan it in position. Mm-hmm. So they didn't have to cut film.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, wait. They're cutting the artwork. They physically, I had to quit after that issue. And then the artwork I got back, they used packing tape to reassemble my double spreads, because I was painting every 2 pages as a double spread.
Yeah.
And some of them were like gashed beyond use. There was like somewhere it's like obviously the knife went off to the side and it damaged like right through a panel. And I went and looked at the printed comic and went, yeah, you can see it. It's right there. They damaged it. And so I couldn't work for them. Then I fell into some people, which is weird. I fell into some people who used to work at Innovation, and they were a bit of a horror show, but they were doing Nosferatu and Queen of the Damned. No, The Mummy. And that was like, okay, this is not what I want to do in terms of horror comics. And then Marvel started showing some interest, and then I got Terror Incorporated, which is pretty close to a horror comic in the superhero element. And I got the job when I was nowhere near good enough, but I had a supportive editor, a rarity at Marvel at that time, who was happy to coach me to get better. And I think the 3 or 4 issues of Terror Incorporated I learned a lot. And that was the most intense growth spurt I ever had in comics, with those 4 issues of Terror. They're still terrible, but
were they painted too, or were they?
Oh no, they were. I was just penciling that. I was terrified of inking. Like if I was doing an illustration, I'd happily ink it, because I'd be doing like this kind of quasi Franklin Booth, Bernie Wrightson thing, and that was not comics at that point. And so I had this Jason Miner, whose pen name was Temujin. He's a great artist. He was inking me, and he was saving me a lot. But then the next thing I got was New Warriors. And this is the first time I landed on a gig where I thought, okay, this is great. It's superheroes, which is not what I think I'm built for, but it's Fabian Nicieza. And no one, for all the guff he gets, no one in comics understands how to write to an artist's strength better than Fabian, I think. And in the few issues we did together before he decided he was done on New Warriors, he actually gave me 1 issue, which was like, it was almost like a love letter to like how he saw me storytelling. He was like, oh, I don't think we're going to do better than that issue. It was like, there's these villains called Sonics, and it was a little story like delving into this one mentally superpowered. I can't remember the character's name because we're talking a long time ago, but that was
30 years ago.
Yeah. But then Fabian, I did an outline for the next year,
Mm-hmm.
And to the editor and I hate to say this, to my mind, it's like Fabian didn't really have, he was so vague. I said, what are we actually doing? I'm looking at the outline. So what are we actually doing? And the editor said, you know what? I had the exact same thought. So he reaches out to Fabian and goes, Fabian, so what are we actually doing? And Fabian says, you know what? You're absolutely right. I think I'm out of ideas for New Warriors.
Wow.
Which was heartbreaking for me. Absolutely heartbreaking, because I thought I was going to be a New Warriors for a year or two. That seemed to be the track record for everyone. And so Fabian stepped away, and there was, as Marvel's standard at the time, they were more often going to give a job to another editor to write a book than anyone outside. So there was an assistant editor who was pimping for the job of writing New Warriors, and from the most bizarrely fanish standpoint, people warned me about him. I don't want to say names because I don't want. I mean, 30 years ago, but right from the first plot he gave me, it was clear he had no understanding of what would. I'm not a superhero fan, but even I knew what was making New Warriors work up to that point. He didn't have any idea of it. He didn't have any idea what was going on in the industry at large. And after drawing his first issue, I left. I had to, because it's like I was so excited to do this project with Fabian, and then this guy comes on, and it's like no, I'll be tearing my hair out. So then I started doing things like I started working on all these different projects with all these other companies as we were arcing towards the comic collapse in the 90s. Mm-hmm. Which was weird. So I worked on a Punisher graphic novel that turned out like 4 other artists were working on. It was like one of those inventory stories, and I later found out that they kept giving the script out to different artists. Well, just work on this. And the idea in the editorial was, well, it'll keep them busy. It keeps them working for Marvel, and whoever finishes it first gets to publish it. So I'm thinking, the Punisher. Right, so I drew about a dozen pages of that. There was an Invisible Man graphic novel at Dark Horse that got killed because the sales just cratered on that line. It was a really weird. The late 90s in comics was this weird crisis moment where everything was collapsing, and I did some work with Dale Keown on PITT, and but then everything was just too dark in comics. And I was getting a lot of offers for TV and film work. And so I left. I did a lot of production work, some storyboards, and I did some straight-up illustration. And to keep that fantasy horror Jones going, I did some work for role-playing games who were doing that stuff. Right. And then I taught for about 9 years. And during that period of teaching, I increasingly realized I shouldn't have left comics. It was the, not to sound grandiose, it was the perfect medium for me to work in. Writing and drawing visually, telling the stories that way, pacing, understanding what the image tells as a story. That's where I had to be. So
when you were teaching, what was the major? What was the focus?
Well, I taught first I taught at a private animation school. Okay. They brought me on board because they actually wanted the comics program, which was a big part of me realizing how much I missed it. Because I was like, I had to go back and break down how you're supposed to think when you're teaching comics. And in a lot of ways, it turns out you're working for business people who don't understand comics. They start making changes out of their ignorance, and they see their ignorance as a strength, where you can realize right up the front you're going to screw up a lot of kids. So I taught at that school for 2 years. The second year, I kind of ran screaming from it. I take it as a badge of honor. The person they had take over after I developed a comic program. I developed a concept art program because I had experience there as well. And then I just had to go. So they brought Ty Templeton in. I think everyone can understand that Ty is probably, he's also taught comics for a long time. He's easily one of the, if someone's king of storytelling, Ty's one of the kings of storytelling. And so he came in, he didn't last a semester.
Was that tough?
They were that wrong.
Right.
They were that wrong and willing to fight for their wrongness.
Wow.
And the most hilarious thing is they did something that's quasi illegal. They took all my course outlines, which they ultimately own, but I have to be accredited when I write a course. And they took my name off. They didn't change anything else. They just took my name off and put the new professor's name on, or instructor's name on.
Yowza.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was immediately another college, animation video game college. They'd heard about me. They heard some feedback about my teaching approach. And so they dragged me in. So I taught there for 7 years. And but the longer I was there, the more I realized I have to. I started near the end of it. I started doing some, like, I did a cover for this company. I did a little drawing for this company. I did a few drawings for this company. I did a weird virtual reality comic for this one company. I can't even remember what it's called. And so just enough comic experience while I was teaching to realize that, yeah, I got to go back to this. I got to go back to this. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking at some of the chat, and I should have highlighted, what was it? Mazza Monks is here from London.
Oh,
nice to have a diverse audience. That's why I like doing these shows on Saturday afternoons, because we can actually have people from Europe tune in and watch the shows live. It's something that we don't get to do when we have our shows during the week at 9 p.m. because nobody in Europe.
I know. It really. I mean, I've cemented my streams at 7 p.m. Sunday, and I've gotten a number of fans from Europe, and they sometimes they'll show up just as it starts, saying, I just want to say hi, I'm going to bed. And they'll watch it during the week. So it's there's part of me that's thinking maybe I should move it to earlier, like maybe 5 p.m. on Sunday. So that makes it a little bit, but I don't know if that makes it that much of a difference for them. So
right. It's tough picking streaming schedules. Trust me, I've been doing it for almost 5 years now, and it's not easy, to pick stuff. So you always have to kind of hope that people will tune in after the fact. But that's why, again, why these Saturday afternoon shows are fun. And so we have a nice audience. We have about 45 people watching us live right now.
So that's wonderful.
Thank you for tuning in, everyone. We do have an art sale. I should let everybody know we are going to do an art sale probably 15 minutes or so. We'll get that started. So for those of you who knew about that and you're tuning in for that, that's about when it'll start. For those of you who didn't know we were going to do that, we will be doing that. We'll be looking at some.
Mazza just mentioned Mark Asquith. If anyone's the nexus of all comic book realities, it's Mark Asquith.
Yeah.
He's there was a TV show. It got kind of famous outside of Canada, but it was produced for Canadian TV called Prisoners of Gravity.
Okay, not heard of that.
And it was an interview show about genre. And it was largely, they got okayed with the idea that it was for kids, but it was really for the adult genre audience. And I think he did amazing work. He had one episode completely dedicated to Watchmen. And he had Dave Gibbons and Alan Moore talking extensively about Watchmen. I think it might be on YouTube. It is again? Prisoners of Gravity.
Okay, I'll look that up. Interesting. No, it sounds fun, actually. It's like a time capsule.
It really is. And then after Prisoners of Gravity wrapped, he went on to become one of the senior producers for Space, essentially the Canadian version of Sci-Fi Network. And he did that for several years. So, I mean, Mark Asquith is, I think when people start doing, like, when they start writing the histories of people who connect people and they do things, Mark's going to start showing all the history books from like the 90s and early aughts.
Well, I know it sounds like it's something that when we've been doing these streams and interviews here, I feel like it's important because somebody needs to kind of chronicle the history of comics. Sounds like Mark was doing that long before anybody thought about YouTube or anything else. So that's wonderful.
Well, his background really, before he did Prisoners of Gravity, he was the senior manager for the Silver Snail comic shop in Toronto.
Okay.
And it was, if I understand the history at the time, it was the biggest comic shop in North America at the time. And it was
now I know what he was mentioning when he said "and the snail." That's the comic shop. All right, good.
And it was so big that it became a tour destination for people like Mobius and Neil Gaiman. And if you're working on X-Men and you're doing the store appearance, you're going to do the Snail in Toronto. I mean, it was just a given. And it was great. This is one of my favorite experiences. First store signing I got to go to at the Silver Snail, it was Mark Silvestri. And And now Mark is a very nice guy, but he's got a very sharp sense of humor. He asked to see my sketchbook because I had my sketchbook with me, and I had some really terrible drawings on it, and he couldn't help it. I did a drawing of Captain America throwing his shield, and he looked like some sort of bizarro ballet dancer. And he just he looked at it, he just kind of laughed. I went, what? He turned around and everyone saw the drawing. Everyone started laughing. And I was like so humiliated, but I immediately understood why it was funny. So it was like one of those things where it's like, so there's and the weird thing is of like the Image founders, I've always loved Mark Silvestri's work the most.
Okay.
I mean, no one, I don't think anyone draws as well in that group as well as Mark. There's people you can like Will Spurtatia more, you can like Jim Lee more, you can like Rob Liefeld for because you're off your meds, but Mark Silvestri, hands down, could outdraw any of them, and you could tell he was getting lazy on Wolverine, like the drop from what he was doing on X-Men to Wolverine, he was letting Dan Green do most of the heavy lifting, but his storytelling was still impeccable, and every once in a while he'd pull out a sequence he obviously got inspired. And you go, oh God, look at that. I was still buying it, even though I could see it was like less than his favorite work. And then finding it in hindsight, that's the point where you're thinking of quitting comics. And then Image happens, and all of a sudden, fire, bam. Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, the book was so brain dead stupid, but so beautifully drawn. Everything he did at Top Cow was just his best work ever. He just outdid himself again and again and again. And I got to tell you, nothing made me feel like a fanboy more than that Batman Joker series he did. And I'm not a superhero guy anymore, but I was like, I gotta get it. Because it was so good. I mean, I even bought that black and white. There's a little black and white issue they did, so you could just look at the inks. If they don't do an artist edition of that series, they're skipping a beat. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
I know it, but I can't remember it. So now you're making me want to go back and check it out. I actually
it's Batman and Joker as allies.
Okay.
I think it's called Deadly Duo.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't really pay a lot of attention to the story because I've gone through the book. I just picked up the hardcover and I went through it again. And I read sequences, but so much I'll just stop and I'll just look at the art because that's where I'm focused on this. And he does things. I think everyone remembers his Batman black and white Batman drawing. Mm-hmm. It's possibly, I think it's arguably the best Batman drawing ever. If you had to say, okay, what are the best Batman drawings ever? There's some classic ones that you have the effect. You can find a Neil Adams drawing. You go, it's Neil Adams. You got to love it. But I think if you just look at it from a technical compositional execution standpoint, I think that Batman sitting in a chair says everything. So, but I could be biased.
You might be, but yeah, I love Silvestri as well. I have a page from his Uncanny X-Men run, and I have a page from his run on Wolverine too. And it's funny. I mean, I'm gonna have to go back and kind of compare the two because I do feel like there's maybe a little bit of a difference in between because the X-Men page is very, very, very detailed, even though it's a scene from the mansion, right? But it's fun, and so there's a lot of things going on. Everything you'd want out of an Uncanny page, right? Because to me, that's what makes up the book. Less about the battles and more about the camaraderie or lack of camaraderie, going on with that with the crew. But
when he left X-Men is when I left X-Men, really. So.
Well, when I stopped buying right around 89, and I think maybe he was just getting started somewhere around in there, but a lot of that stuff for me was kind of going back and rereading it after I got back into comics. Yeah. But no, these are interesting stories. I'd really love to learn more about Mark actually, and I'm looking forward.
Have him on.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I'm taking more notes than I don't usually even take notes during an interview, but you're making me write down a lot of stuff here. The Silver Snail, Mark Asquith, and the Prisoners of Gravity. All things I've got to look up, and I'd love to have Mark on. I bet there's some complimentary guests that might actually kind of add some,
Oh God, you're just lucky you haven't gotten me talking about Bill Sienkiewicz yet. So.
Well, all right. Well, we're gonna have to do. I actually have had Bill on once before. I had him on with Dennis Cowan. We did a kind of a an interview with the two of them, and then we did an art sale with pieces that Dennis had penciled and Bill had inked, which was
how long ago was that? Because I scrolled through it back and I didn't see it.
Gosh, that's probably about 2 years ago now.
Okay, I'm gonna go dig because I will watch it. Oh my god, I love both their work. Oh my, I would love. I mean, Bill's gonna ink them until ink Dennis until someone pulls Dennis from his hands. I would love to ink Dennis. I would absolutely love it. I'm nowhere near as good an inker as Bill. I'm nowhere near as good as an inker, but I think I could make Dennis happy. Dennis, I can make you happy.
Yeah. Well, I actually have to call Dennis in a week or so. So I could plant a seed somewhere, but I can see it. I mean, with your inking style, with your technique, I could see it working and complementing Dennis's, style. Absolutely.
I love the inherent geometry of Dennis's work.
Mm-hmm.
He plans out his shapes in such an interesting way. And Bill, I think Bill's probably, I mean, it's not probably, Bill's the best inker for him because Bill interprets that so well. His versatility with the line. He's a virtuoso with any sort of line technique. I've learned so much, but nowhere near enough from studying Bill's work. And I would have a different personality to it. I think I'm still a little bit more organic. But I would love any opportunity to ink Dennis. So.
Very cool. I get it, and I love Dennis's stuff. And it's funny, we talk about Bill every once in a while, but it comes up where I'm always just amazed that he's one of those guys that it seems just as comfortable inking other people's work, even though you really think of him as penciling and inking his own stuff. But he's one of those amazing talents that that doesn't have a problem inking things that that he wants to ink. He's inked so much that he hasn't penciled. It's surprising. Especially when we in the whole career path that you think a lot of comic book creators follow. Bill seems like he could just pencil all until the end of time if he wanted to, and yet he really enjoys crossing over and inking other people's work.
There's a heartbreaking moment in my career where I got a call from Paul Kupperberg when he was still at DC,
mm-hmm.
and he said, "Well, I want to talk to you about inking this Flash project." And I was like, someone wants me to ink? All right. Yeah. So we're talking everything. And then he's talking about picking up where we left off. And I'm like, this is the first we've talked about it. And then I hate to say it tweaked. My friend and amazing artist, Richard Case,
mm-hmm.
was at that point in his career mostly inking. And I was like, oh. I went, Paul, I'm really sorry. I think you called the wrong Richard.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of sadness.
Oh.
Weirdly enough, I've done as much as I want to ink other people because I think the experience only grows you. And I think deep down, that's why Bill inks so many other people because it actually helps you grow as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
I've laid out for other people more than I've inked other people. Which also helps me focus on being a better storyteller. So are we running along in this portion? Should I shut up?
No, not at all. I mean, that's one of the things I enjoy the most is hearing stories from your career that where we can talk about Kupperberg calling you, even though it was the wrong Richard, and those sorts of things. I think we, again, it's back to chronicling and learning more about the things that happen behind the scenes that make it enjoyable. Apparently, with the Silver Snail. The opportunity to bump into Silvestri and have him laugh and mock your Captain America throwing a shield. I love hearing those stories. I think are the things that we all enjoy the most.
I got too many of them. We'll save it for next time.
Yeah, we will. So we've talked obviously about Second Coming, and but there is some work that you've done with Mr. Seeley on some of his books. And how did you meet him, and then ended up getting to do some work here or there?
We ran into each other at a convention in the Maritimes in Canada.
Uh-huh.
And he really liked my work, and he talked about me drawing something for him. He had a whole bunch of pitches in at DC, and so I was game. And the artist was already chosen for Imaginary Fiends, and he's a great artist. But Tim managed to sell Molly Mahan on me as a cover artist, because I'd already done some covers from Vault and some other stuff, and my covers were pretty good. And they gave me all the information, and I think the first cover I did for Imaginary Fiends, I was like overthinking. I did a version. I hated it, didn't show it to anyone. I did another version. I said, okay, it's got to feel more like a David Lynch piece, like something from a David Lynch movie. And it hit. And I think it was the best piece I did for years at that point. And it's that Imaginary Fiends. And then each cover was a different challenge. And I felt I was growing as a cover artist for every single issue. And it did really well. I think it was the best selling Vertigo book when it came out, and there was every expectation there was going to be a subsequent arc, but the decision was made to scrap pretty much all of Vertigo except for the Neil Gaiman relaunch, and that put everything off the table except for other projects that were about to launch, which included Second Coming. But oh my god, okay, here's another one. It makes Dark Horse look bad, but who cares? So Laverne Kanzierski, one of the top colorists in comics history. He also likes to write a lot. He works with John Bolton a lot. If you want to read some of his work, Mike Richardson said, to Laverne, if you ever want to do a Tarzan story, we'll do it. So Laverne said, "Oh, I got this in my back pocket. If I find an artist who wants to draw Tarzan, we're good." He approaches me at a party around a convention. He says, "Hey, you want to draw Tarzan?" I said, "I'd love to draw Tarzan, but Tarzan doesn't sell." He goes, "Oh, well," and he tells me, "I got this open invitation at Dark Horse." And I look at him and I go, "I would happily draw a Tarzan Conan crossover," because Dark Horse at the time had both.
Mm-hmm.
And Laverne goes, first thing he goes, "No, it's pronounced Conan," which, I'll never say it that way. But, but he's like, all right. So he comes up with this bizarro, crazy story of Tarzan and this time traveling void inside I think the Forgotten City. There's like a time travel portal, and so Conan comes through the portal. He and Tarzan antagonistic initially, and then Nazis show up, and it's Tarzan and Conan beating the crap out of Nazis. And I'm going, this is going to be the best thing ever. But then Dark Horse says, "Okay, we're not ready to get this started. Just hold on a bit." A few months go by. "Yeah, we're not ready to get this started. Just hold on a bit. Everyone's go. It's going to happen. Just hold on a bit." So we hold on for about 6 months, and then Marvel accidentally releases the news that they have Conan. Oh,
wow.
Oh, heartbreaking.
Well, that's unfortunate. I mean, that's why they're holding off, right? They were losing the license or whatnot.
Yeah, I think the negotiation wasn't going well. I think because I honestly think Tarzan Conan would have been. It was crazy. I don't know if it was good. I honestly, because the way it was plotted, I'd have to see the script to know if it was good. But the plot was crazy, and it was giving me the most amazing things to draw. I threw some ideas about Conan and a B-52 bomber, and killing everyone in the bomber, not understanding that the pilots need to fly it.
Yeah, that would be a difficult situation for him.
And my idea for the sequence, I don't know if I managed to get that across, but it's like Conan sees one of the guys jump up with a parachute, and he sees one of the guys he just decapitated with the parachute. So he grabs the guy by the chute, jumps out, and pulls the thing. So he's hanging onto a guy as he's parachuting down.
A beheaded. Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Didn't happen though.
No. It's a deep sadness. Deep sadness.
Man. Well, I'm sorry about that. That's unfortunate, but wow. So what's on the drawing table right now? Before we get into the sale, kind of where are you at right now with projects? Is there anything that you can talk about?
Yeah, I can. I'm working on the 4th arc of Second Coming.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can talk about this. There was a bit of every arc I've done a different approach to the covers. First was not me doing the covers, of course. Second arc was me coming up with the 2 images,
mm-hmm.
One image above the logo. The 3rd arc was I wanted to get some of Leonard's artwork on the cover, so I wanted to do the classic like 1960s DC cover design with like the bubbles with the art on the side, sure. And it's one image in the bottom under the logo. And we were back and forth over what we're going to do for the next arc. And Mark, my editor, came up with the idea. I wasn't going to suggest it because it was an idea that was like in the back of my head, but I didn't really want to push it because I thought it'd be too much. We're going to be homaging classic Superman covers from over Superman's history for every issue. So it's only 5 issues. The arcs are going to be 5 issues. I think there's only 2-3 arcs left. But all 5 covers are going to be Superman covers, and I'm hoping I get to do the Muhammad Ali Superman cover, but with Sunstar and Jesus fighting.
Why not, right? I mean,
yeah, and then fill the audience with like contemporary politicians and celebrities and people from second, like the way that Batman's, the back of Batman's head, we're going to have Nightshade, the back of Nightshade's head with his beard kind of like sticking out on the sides.
Mm-hmm.
Got to stick Robot in there too.
I love it. Yeah, that's going to be fun.
It's going to be a blast. And I'm working on my second witch book.
I wanted to ask you about that because I wasn't familiar with that, and I didn't check out your Patreon, but I know that. Tell me a bit about that because you accidentally sent me a piece of art that isn't for sale that I'm going to be sending back to you. Yeah. So you've done one book and you're preparing.
Yeah. Is it 3 years? It's 3 years now. 3 years ago for Inktober, I decided I didn't want to follow anyone else's prompts. If you're going to do something for your own enjoyment, you should do it entirely for your own enjoyment. So I was casting about what to draw, and what popped into my memory was Leroy Neiman's Femlins, if you know those. Okay. And Playboy in the 70s, and I think he stopped in the 80s, which is around the time I stopped reading Playboy. He did these little pen and ink drawings of nude women with like long arm length sleeve gloves and thigh-high stockings with a little dark hair, and they're just beautiful little drawings. I said, "What if it's Halloween? Why don't I do a witch version of a femlin?" And that's how it started. I just drew these witches, and I don't know why I decided the hat would always cut off the eyes. It was just like an affectation, and I don't think I had ever had a string of drawings that had been that popular ever on social media. They just caught on like stupid crazy. And it was so popular that my art rep, we did like halfway through it, my then art rep, Cadence. We decided to do like the first 12 or 15, and they all sold out like immediately. And I'm like, oh, I'm onto something. So after October stopped, I said, oh, you know what? I'm going to do Witchy Wednesdays. I got so much other work. October just ate my life with all the witch drawings. So I'll do one a week. And those were incredibly popular as well until Instagram started getting really, really prudish about anything. They were like flagging drawings that didn't even have nudity at that point. And they're still doing that, which kind of killed the impulse. I said, you know what? I'm going to stop. I'm going to let my account recover from all the warnings. I'm going to do a second Witchtober. And Zoop they really wanted to work with me. They really liked my work. They thought I would be a good project for their line. So we decided to do a collection of all the drawings, a collection of 100 witch drawings, because with the 2 Octobers and then the Witchy Wednesdays, 100 drawings. So covering a book of 100 witch drawings we raised around $20K, which is pretty darn good, I think, for like just 100-page black and white book. And because of that, I am doing Coven Tales from the Witch House this October. And it's going to be a collection of short stories that I'm writing and drawing that are world building the witch's world, which will be a nice step up, because if that's successful, next year I'm going to do a witch graphic novel for October.
I was just going to say, it's got to be leading to that, right? Yeah.
So it's going to be a bunch of short stories. So it's there's so much extra material. I don't know. It's not going to go much over 100 pages. So it's going to be another similar size, but it's going to be color in black and white, depending on the story needs. And but also on top of that, for next late spring, I want to do a straight up horror book. It's called We Bring Only Death, and that's going to be my umbrella title for my Viking horror stories, because as soon as I started thinking about Viking horror stories, I came up with about 12. And there's something of, Vikings and horror are like the Reese's peanut butter cups of genres. You mix them together, they're both better as a result.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's I like that.
Yeah.
It almost, well, but that's pretty cool. And the thing is, not being familiar with the Witch series, which I should have been before we started today. I mean, the one illustration you sent is fantastic. That's why I was like, this can't not have been published. You put too much work into it.
My mistake was it was with the pile of work, and I put it aside, and I said, you know what, I better sleeve that because that's not going to be published till like a year from now, maybe. Mm-hmm. So I sleeved it, and I think just because it was like piled up with that, I went, oh, you know, I put a piece of paper over it, and then packed it without even really looking because I was automatic at that point because like what 20 some odd pages. So.
Exactly. No, well, you packed your art better than I think I've gotten it from any other creator since I've been doing these. I mean, you just mentioned you had paper in between every piece. You had the box that you put it in, was indestructible. So all of that was very appreciated on my side. I can tell you. I
had a bad experience. I had a German fan buy this piece I did for this Transmetropolitan tribute book. Mm-hmm. And I riffed Frazetta's Romans, but I replaced it with the Transmet characters.
Sure.
And I shipped it, and I thought I stripped it securely, but it arrived damaged and punctured.
Oh wow!
And there's like multiple levels of cardboard. And ever since then, I stay flat mailers are apparently better than cardboard, so I usually do a combination of cardboard and stay flats. Because that gives it even more structural rigidity. But when I was shipping out that artwork, and it's like when I shipped out to my art rep too, my ex-art rep. Cadence.
I understand. I mean, yeah. I don't understand, but I understand. Trust me, I've worked with a few of their
you've heard. I think everyone's told the stories of what happened.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but you're in a better place. Did you get most of your art back, or all of it back? I hope.
I got what looks like most of it. There's some pieces that are missing that might have been sold and weren't tracked.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch of others. There was like something like my banner was lost. It was probably just too expensive to ship, and they just kind of went, nah, fuck it.
Right.
And he's ghosted. He owes, compared to some people, he owes me peanuts. But he ghosted everyone. He made all the promises. I'll pay you, and then he just ghosted everyone.
Wow. So, yeah, I don't have I can't really comment on it. You know, it's just it's like one of those situations that I don't know. I always thought they were too big, too many creators they were working with. And I think
the weird thing is Andrew, who's Andrew Chrisman.
Yeah, very good guy.
Really good guy. He was actually pushing to cut the roster, and I was thinking they should cut the roster. And I was actually thinking if I was looking at the roster, I said, you know what? I'm one of the people that should cut. I'm really, in terms of like what I do, I'm not like one of the, in terms of like the name quality, if you're going to cut down from like 130 to like 50, which is a more reasonable number, mm-hmm. They had 50 top name people they owed a lot of money to. And I was thinking if I'm not in that top 50, I'm just not. I think I'm good, but I don't have the high profile work that these other people do. I can't. I mean, my God, Brian Hill, one of the best writers in comics right now, wants to do a Batman project with me at DC, and they're not returning his fucking calls.
Wow.
Right. And I'm like, okay, I do a Batman project. I would, and especially with Brian. Brian writes action like no one in comics. Read his Blade series right now. Mm-hmm. It's really, really good. I could work with Brian any day. I really deep down, I really want to work on my own stories, but I would work with Brian any day of the week. And I think he and I working on a Batman project. Pretty much we even thought about like, what if we, after the disastrous Black Adam movie, we thought maybe we could do a Hawkman series, like an Elseworlds Hawkman series, mm-hmm. and really just do something really cool and dark with it. Because we both, oh my God, the actor who played Hawkman, oh God, he's so good. He's so good. I'm digressing again, but yeah, it's Cadence should have cut down to 50, but they would have cut down to 50 and then just owed a lot of money to the people they cut, and I think that's why he wasn't cutting people. And on top of that, the top 50 people. I mean, Raphael Albuquerque already quit for reasons I don't fully know, but I can suspect. Cadence, there's no reason Cadence should have fallen apart if it was better managed.
Yeah, I mean, they were one of the few reps that I didn't work a lot with. I mean, I knew them, but they didn't advertise with us. I didn't really have a lot to, we just didn't have a lot of interaction other than the few times I bought a few pieces from them. It always took really long to get stuff. A lot of times they didn't have the art in hand. I mean, there was lots of different things there. But Nathan in the chat mentions that I got your Kurt Cobain from Cadence in case that was missing.
No, I got paid for that one. It was basically stuff that was done within the last 7 months from the last shipment of art I sent to them. Wow. Came back, I went through it. There was it was like listed as sold on the website, but I never got paid for it. And there's some pieces that I just knew were missing, and I was like going through. It's like, do I still have that piece? And it's gone. On top of that, oh my God, we did a print project. I did this Frankenstein drawing. And I thought the pen and ink turned out really, really well. It was a nice little bit of an homage to Bernie Wrightson, but also my own style. And we did a print project. And I was anticipating that just based on my fan base alone, we're going to get 50, 60 sales. He puts out the announcement in his newsletter once at like 4 a.m. Right? I promoted a bit. Apparently only 5 sold, all based on my promoting it. And so I remarked them all, and then all the Cadence stuff happened, and I was like trying to sort out everything. And it turns out I keep forgetting this. I just found all the 5 prints back. So I'm gonna find the addresses for the people who bought them, send them, even though I'm like losing money on it. But these people deserve their art or their prints. So right,
exactly.
Yeah, I developed a shipping room in my walk-in closet, and I was moving some cardboard, so I could throw this cardboard down. I went, hold it, what's this? And it's like, oh my God, it's all the prints. And I just completely lost someone actually mentioned it to me like about 4 or 5 months ago. And I went, oh yeah, right, I got to look into that. It just fell out of my brain. So I was cleaning up, setting up the shipping room, and I found them. So it's like, you should be able to get them out this week.
Well, when the show's over, let's talk in the green room. I've got some interesting stuff I can tell you that we're working on that might, be useful at some point to you in the future.
Well, I gotta say, the last year I've been doing my own stuff. Mm-hmm. I think I've been doing it pretty good. I'm getting to work out faster than Cadence was able to. But I gotta say, it does eat up a lot of my create time. So it's one of the downsides of doing it all on your own.
I completely. Well, at the end of the day, we as art collectors, I don't want you packing and shipping art, Richard. I want you making art. So that's why reps are needed in this business, right? I mean, I get it, and it's true, because I just want you creating. If I have to worry about you trying to like figure out how to invoice somebody and then pack it to ship it to this, that's just taking away time from your creativity. And you have a business to run, but yeah, it's a challenging situation when especially now that you're where you're at. But we've been in this interview for an hour now, and we haven't gotten to
oh my God. Okay, let's like
or we're gonna be
I got way too many stories.
There's probably lawns to be mowed out there this Saturday afternoon. I know mine needs it. So, but yeah, we've got 28 artworks. I'll just go over the ground rules and explain everything to everybody. We have 28 artworks to look at today. And they're most of them are recent, I'd say, but from the last maybe 1 or 2 pieces might be around 5 years old, but most of it's more current work. Some spec like commission style pieces, and and one thing I did want to ask, I mean, because do you actually take commissions? I mean, is that something that, and I'm not talking about doing it through the show, but if people ever were interested in that, like when an opportunity would present that itself, do you do that, and would you want people to contact you in a certain way? Because you do amazing work, like when we look at that Galactus, for instance, and the Batman and the Joker piece. I could right behind you. I mean, so the thing is, that's not something, just so everybody knows, we're not offering commission opportunities to the show whatsoever. But do you take them ever? I mean,
I do. I used to do commissions through Cadence. Mm-hmm. And that was okay. I set up 2 spots, like placeholder spots, on a big Cartel site, which is where I sell my artwork right now. But I haven't made them active because next time I open up commissions, I want to be free of anything.
Sure.
I want to get so probably I'll be opening up commissions November, so people can like either buy stuff for themselves for Christmas or for friends. Yep. So November is going to be when I open up commissions on my big Cartel. I also had this thing where, like, some of the bigger pieces, that it hurts a lot of people on the pocketbook. So what I did is I opened up on my Patreon a higher membership tier at $25 a month. At the end of it, you get an 11 by 17 full piece.
Not bad.
And I think, is it two? I think, yeah, I just opened up two and they sold out immediately. And and I figured, okay, if anyone actually asks for it, I'll open up one just for them. As long as it's not like, suddenly, what this month hits and all of a sudden I got to do 12. So it's like, I wouldn't want to have to do more than 2 in a month.
Right, of course.
With the workload. So I want to do a good job.
So what social platform is the best to follow you on for when opportunities like that come up?
Well, Patreon, my Patreon's only $1 a month for the basic stuff. And so if you want to see everything, my $1 a month Patreon, Richard Pace, is the absolute best, because then you get to see covers like 6-7 months before they go live. Right. I mean, so if you're an art collector and you really want to buy my stuff, like my covers, and you want to get ahead in line, join the Patreon and say, I want that cover. And that's a way to basically jump ahead. I put my Patreons first. But after that, right after that, Instagram is probably the go-to. It's got the largest audience. I have to be really careful because Instagram is super censorious. So everything that goes to Instagram, if there's anything risque on it, it gets covered up, but you'll see it on Patreon. And then after that, I'm on Blue Sky, Kara. Facebook, I don't necessarily, I put stuff on there because there's people on Facebook from way back when who follow me for my art, but I don't really see Facebook as an art platform.
Agreed. Yeah, it's more press release, that sort of thing.
It's a platform where everyone yells at their relatives.
That's true too. Well, I did put the link to your Patreon and your Instagram in the chat. Anybody who would like to follow you, should go ahead and follow those links. And I think I might have put one or two of those in the show description, but I'll make sure that I get those into the show description after we're done here.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right, so now I'll go over the ground rules for the claims that we'll have today. I have all the art, everybody. Well, I have all the art except for one, the Galactus piece, which you saw was behind Richard. So that's we'll be looking at that one in a little bit. But I have 27 of the 28 artworks with me. So if you claim any artworks today, and how you claim an artwork, every piece in the set 1 through 28 is numbered. So if you see a piece you like, you just type claim and the lot number in the chat. So claim 1, and we know which one you want. We'll note you as the person to claim it. Anybody who claims any artworks today, we want you to email me after the show, bill@comicartfans.com. I'll arrange, your payment information and get that out to you. When you email me, it's best to always include your mailing address, because that way I'll know if you're overseas or if you're in the US, and that way I'll know, what to charge you for the shipping. We'd like to get payment within 48 hours. Some of the pieces are covers, so they are, they're not $200 pieces. So if somebody on the outside chance needed to, maybe a month or two to pay off something, but you wanted to claim it, we'd probably be able to work with you. So just want to put that out there. At the end of the day, we want to get the art in people's hands. And if it takes a couple months to get the payments completed, I'm more than happy to work that out and take care of that for both you and Richard. So if you can't make payments right away, we'll work that out. But if you have to use something like PayPal, we do have a service fee, 4% US, 5.5% international. I definitely prefer Zelle, Venmo. I'll even wait for a personal check to come in the mail to avoid having to charge any kind of fees. I don't like doing that. So, and I'll work with you on that to do anything we can to avoid a fee. Now, as far as shipping goes, domestic shipping is $30, international $65. Canada is international, right, Richard?
Yeah. Although what's really interesting, and I learned this is me, is like shipping rates have gone up through the roof in the last 5-6 years.
They have.
My shipping in Canada is essentially the same as my shipping to the US these days, when I'm being paid in US dollars.
Wow.
It's bizarre. But shipping, Canada has the population in New York State spread out along the entire US-Canadian border. So it's shipping, lower population density. So I understand it.
Well, I was a little shocked that, not to I went to the post office the other day. I had to mail one envelope, and I didn't put the stamp on it because I was going to do something registered or whatever. And then in the end of the day, I didn't. And the woman said 73 cents. And I was like, it costs that much to send an envelope? Because I've been buying forever stamps here in the U.S. for so long. I didn't know what it cost to mail a single envelope anymore. I was like, I thought it was like 50 cents. I had no idea. So yeah, shipping has gone up quite a bit in the last 4 or 5 years. But all right, well, so now you know the ground rules. I don't see anybody asking any questions. So we'll just start showing the artworks, and there's going to be plenty of things that we can talk about while we're looking at the artworks. But order on the artworks today. I didn't do anything like low to high. I actually did them alphabetically again, knowing like what the titles of the pieces were. So a lot of the second coming stuff will be later, and a few of the spot illustrations based on what the character is are up front. So just so everybody knows, there's no real rhyme or reason to the order that I have the pieces in today.
That sounds like my life.
Mine too some days. So all right, well, we'll take a look at the first lot. This was a pencil piece that you did. You entitled it Alien Walkies. It's on 11 by 14, all pencil, priced at $200. And again, it harkens back to your love for horror, sci-fi, dark fantasy, you name it. I assume Alien affected you like it affected most of us.
Oh yeah. This was you familiar with Carl Kopinski's work?
I do, yeah.
I had just gotten his latest art book, and I just loved how many pencil drawings he did just like this. So this is me saying, okay, you know what? I want to do some of that. So I started doing a series of essentially daily drawings when I could, when work allowed me to do it. And this was just knowing Alien Romulus was coming up, and the Alien Anniversary edition. My son and I went out and saw the Alien Anniversary release. And I just kind of had this stupid idea of like, what if you had a pet alien? What if Wayland Yutani actually was able to make them like tame them, domesticate aliens? So that was a fun for it. I thought it was funny too. So that was fun drawing.
You would be the only kid on your block with an alien.
Oh my God. Fetch.
But yeah, no, fun illustration. So this one's lot one, priced at $200. We have. We've got a few other pencil-only illustrations, I think, in the set today, but I think they're a little bit later. So the next piece is actually a cover. So lot two, this is from, and I'm not familiar with, obviously I know the homage that we're ripping on here from Frazetta, and I love the fact that the guy's laying over the horse instead. But tell me about Babs. I'm not even familiar with the book, but this was the
okay. Well, it's not out yet. So this is Garth Ennis's new book coming out from Ahoy. I think the first issue shipping this month, I think. So early on when I saw it, I saw it announced, and I was like, I reached out to Tom Plyer and I went, Tom, you're doing a sword and sorcery book and you haven't tapped me for a cover? He goes, yeah, we haven't tapped you for a cover. He says, let me get back to you. So, okay, do one. So apparently they'd already lined up a bunch of people that I think Garth had wanted. And so I got to do this. And so I pitched this variation on the Flashman cover. And I just, put Conan across the withers of the horse and have Babs like, with the same expression as the Flashman running away from some sort of unknown mob. And the horse is actually, the horse talks in Babs. And so I thought the terror on the horse's face was just not, I just had to do it. So this was super fun.
No, it totally is. And I should let everybody know, if anybody wants to see anything in more detail, I can flip a few screens around here and zoom in and show stuff. Just something I don't usually do, but I was like, there's a lot of detail in your pieces, Richard. So we may end up wanting to do that here or there, or something that you wanted to point out. I can flip the screen over and actually show some stuff in more detail. So yeah, we don't usually get stuff though that hasn't come out yet. So
it was, I just figuring, it's lying there, and they're announcing, and honestly, it got put in because Ahoy showed a whole bunch of the covers.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how I was able to get the printed image too. So
yeah.
Releases October 23rd, says.
Really? Or maybe it's the final cutoff right now.
Oh. All right. Well,
okay. I don't get to a comic shop nearly often enough to know what's
well, it's on 11 by 17. It's priced at $8.15. It's lot number 2.
Yeah.
And next up, one of those commission pieces that I was talking about that I think this is fantastic as a mixed media piece. It's Batman The art size on the board is 9x11 roughly on an 11x14 board. It's kind of a heavier illustration board.
It's 300-pound watercolor.
300 pound. Well, okay, yeah, that's right, because it has a bit of a tooth to it.
Yeah.
So is this something that I've seen a few commissions on calf in this kind of style? Is it something that you've been doing for a while, where you put this kind of level? And what's the medium used here?
All right. Well, so doing all the pencil drawings made me miss like the real rich blacks you can get out of like watercolor and gouache. And so it made me remember, so, I used to do these, like I did a Batman Gotham a Gaslight piece years ago where I just used ink and gouache, and I thought it turned out nice. I said, what would I do with that now? And so this started as pencil drawing, where I went over with a matte black pencil to get the lines a little harder. And then I just started painting in gouache and then doing a little bit of highlights with white colored pencil. Then I did a little bit of airbrush. It basically just ended up being like, what am I going to do to make this work? And I just realized, oh God, I'm trying to channel Sienkiewicz. So, so it was basically, and in fact, I did that. I did the Joker, I did Galactus, and tomorrow night I'm doing Etrigan, or the Demon. Yep. I just, it's going to be the last piece like this in this style for a while. But I just like, I fall into medium happy spots where it's like, oh, I'm really enjoying this. I'll do this for a while. Like I did all those pencil drawings, and it's like, I'm still happy doing them, but I want to do this now. So it's, it was really fun to do.
Kind of stretching your technique here or there just to try something new.
I feel you grow as an artist the more you play.
Mm-hmm.
And so painting, doing this will inform my digital color work. Drawing this will inform my drawing for pen and ink. The same way that my digital color work and my pen and ink work will help inform my paintings.
Wonderful. All right, well, this one's $400, lot number 3. We can take a look at lot number 4, another illustration. Now, was this for fun? Was it for one of the?
It's for fun. It's I don't know why I did. You know what? I think I had the idea in my head. I know. I remember now. Chris Sheehan. I don't know if you know his work. Amazing.
I know the name.
He had posted a couple of horned women. If you go through my history, I've drawn some like devil girls and stuff like that in the past. And he just did this really beautiful one. And I said, oh, it's been forever since I did it. And then I had the idea of like being backlit and the horns really being really heavily put in silhouette by the window. And so I started sketching it out, and I started doing, oh yeah, demons always do weird things with their hands in movies these days. So so it's just standing nude with messed up hands and horns, and I was really quite happy with how it turned out.
Oh, I love it. And I wanted to highlight this. I just saw Bat Kid Voodoo claimed the Batman on the previous one.
Thank you, Voodoo.
Yeah, absolutely.
That Voodoo you do so well.
And I should have mentioned at the beginning, you can claim anything at any time. I know a lot of people like to see the 28 pieces that we're going to show, so they have an idea of what we have. So don't feel awkward if we're showing lot 10 and you decide, all right, it's time to claim lot 6 or something. We're and we'll recap everything that doesn't sell during the live stream, and anything that doesn't sell will actually go up onto Comic Art Fans at the end of the show too. So we kind of give the first shot on buying anything is always on the live stream, and then once the live stream's over, anything unsold, it get put up on CAF as well. So we give everybody the opportunity in the Comic Art Fans environment to pick up this stuff. But so this was lot 4, priced at $300. Someone bought a DC piece, says Stinger. Yeah, DC gets love here every now and again. Marvel is definitely yeah. DC shouldn't be a hard sell. Well, the thing is, I'll tell you, Batman, DC never a hard sell. I think that's a given. But Aquaman, that's way lower on the tier there, unfortunately for DC. But here, lot 5. I know that you've done a few pieces here. There's some stuff for Dynamite. This is one of the alternative covers for Barbarella.
Yeah,
and it's on 11x17, priced at $950. A lot of times I don't like the way things are colored. I think this thing is colored really well to kind of match your style.
I colored it.
Really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I color my own covers.
Oh, wonderful.
I have Juan Castro as my flatter, and he saves me. I'm probably one of the slowest flatters in the world. He he is he's great. I don't necessarily agree with all his color choices, but the best thing about a good flatter is he'll give you things to think about.
Sure.
So he did this. I kind of knew what I was going to do in advance, but he actually made me shift some of the background colors a little bit. I don't think I was initially go with that purple green. He didn't actually use a purple green, but because of his colors, it made me think different parts of the palette. So yeah, so all the covers that you're going to see here, I've colored.
Well, then that makes perfect sense because most of them are colored, impeccably, right? And so now I understand why. And Mickey Yanamentadu, thank you, Mickey. Mickey's claimed this one.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. We appreciate that, Mickey. So that's a good one. So lot five.
I gotta say it. Matt Idleson's my editor for all these covers. He's got me doing this. Johnny Quest. I've done a Vampirilla, which is going to be here. He is the most encouraging cover editor I've ever worked with.
Oh, fantastic.
So I will, I mean, as long as he'll have me, I'll be doing covers with Matt. So.
Well, that's good. I mean, we do a lot of different things with Nick Barucci, and it doesn't surprise me that he surrounds himself with like-minded people. I mean, yeah. Nick's a big fan of original art, for proponent for the artists. I mean, I think he's probably employed more artists than some of the big publishers out there in the last 10 years. I mean, he really is a guy who I have a lot of respect for. And so, yeah, and it was interesting. I was looking at, not to just drop off this, but when I was looking at Second Coming, or maybe, no, it was when I was looking at the sci-fi book that we're going to look at. I noticed that Dynamite lists everybody who's important to their staff on right on that title page, which is rare, right? I mean, they have it down to the lead woman who does the artwork, art directing, page layout, stuff like that, yeah. to people in production. Nobody does that, and I was like, doggone it, man. Nick really, he's smart. He makes sure everybody gets credit for the work that they do within a company, and that's not something that happens too often.
Yeah, I think the only shortcoming with Dynamite is in the past is I never got comps.
No, you don't get any?
No, never for like the Red Sonja thing, for the Starfinder books. But I just got this past week, I got a great package of comps of Johnny Quest. Right. And the metallic cover looks amazing.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And it's really, I mean, it's like I think it might be how the editor fits into the niche, because before I was working with a freelance editor. And I think maybe they were a little outside of the loop of like what happens in the office. So I think working with Matt, him being right in the system, probably meant that it was an easier way for me to be on the comp list. So, but I gotta say, it's like everyone complains about everyone. So I've heard bad stories about Nick, but I've met him. A hell of a nice guy to me in person. Mm-hmm. I had a few online encounters with him. He was nothing but encouraging and understanding about the realities of the industry. Dynamite's great. Dynamite's great.
Well, I completely agree with you. So next piece, we're going to move into some horror here, and that's a piece I think I showed off and asked a question about it. You'll be able to tell me about it. This is the Christopher Lee Dracula illustration for $350. It's on 11 by 17. Yeah. Really, really well rendered. But the question I had when I showed it on Thursday was was like kind of the bat and how that was done on this piece.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, Matthew Dunn, I saw Matthew Dunn, another artist. He pre-made some rubber stamps with some zip patterns on it, like old duo shade or something like that. And I thought that was an amazing idea, so I made some. And if you follow me, I've done a lot of pieces with some rubber stamp work in it, and it just adds beautiful textures. And the original idea was for me to mask out the white of horror Dracula and then do the rubber stamps over it. And so I transferred my pencils to the board, and I did the rubber stamp first, and it looked like ass. And my rule of thumb is if anything that would have been done in old production in the 80s, like through photostat or anything, that's fair game. I'm not a fan of like taking a 3D drawing and making it part of the finished art.
Sure.
Right. So you have to be able to create something. And I based this on a movie poster, and I carefully built it. So I decided, emulating paste, that I actually in Photoshop built the horror Dracula, created the zip tone for it, and had that printed out on the artwork before I inked it. So
that
in
makes
a
perfect
sense,
sense.
that's also a way. It's a way of like doing the old photostat paste up without the rubber cement destroying the artwork.
Yeah, no, well, that's what it looks like, and there's honestly nothing wrong with that. I know a few artists. I mean, we as art collectors have had to adapt to the changes in artists' approach to creating original comic art. And one of the things that I've seen in the last year or two are artists that do a lot of their pencil work digitally and transfer it to board will sometimes lay out some parts of it, not like they won't draw Wolverine or Superman, and transpose that, but they might draw some action lines or something that they, and print that onto the board as well, so that they end up not having to ink that part of it. So yeah, it totally made sense when I saw that, and I felt confident and comfortable thinking that was what you did. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's the paper quality. Even though I'm using Eon board, which I think is probably the best boards in the industry now for artists, I use the vellum blanks, which are beautifully heavy. I got into the habit because Strathmore it's fallen into a terrible state, because Strathmore, you would pencil on it. And if you're like me, you erase a lot and you do a lot of lines, a lot of sketching. The sizing, the stuff that protects the board from falling apart, like when you're inking and stuff, gets worn off with the eraser. They just don't put a good enough layer on it. So my inking was getting terrible in Strathmore. So to save the sizing, I would do all my work. So if I have do I have any pencils lying around here? No, darn it. I cleaned up a little bit. So my studio would look like
cleaned up and you moved.
Yeah, it's like, oh, hang on.
The reference material.
Hang on 1 second.
Yeah.
All right, so this is part of an upcoming, there we go, part of an upcoming Barbarella cover. And you can see it doesn't have the main figure. So I work on translucent bond. You can see through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can do all the sketching, all this drawing at the size I want to work at, scan it into Photoshop, assemble it, turn it into a blue line, print it out. And the board comes out pristine. All I have to worry about is the ink.
Sure.
I don't have to worry about erasing too much, or if I have to erase, I know that the paper can take it now, because I haven't spent like a day getting my hand oils and erasing.
Sure.
And it means that the artwork is safer in many ways. I've seen like old boards where you can actually see, like, you've probably seen this in original art, where you can actually see some of the oils actually discolor the surface of the thing. So now all the pieces I do, despite I know there's some pushback in blue line, transferring your pencil's blue line, and I understand it. I kind of miss penciling on board. That's why I did those pencil drawings.
Mm-hmm.
But I want, because I understand there is a sense where, even though it's artwork, I understand there's a commoditized aspect to the artwork. And so when I do a finished piece, I want it to be as in good condition for the collector as possible. And the way to do that is to reduce the physical interaction with the board as much as possible, apart from getting that finish on it. So
makes sense.
Yeah. That and using a mole stick.
All right. Well, so lot 6 is still out there on that the Dracula piece. We'll take a look at lot 7 next. This was the Joker piece. Really well done. Same size as the Batman that we were just looking at. Same price as well, $400 for this one. Very nicely done. I like, again, I understand now that this was just a kind of a phase, so a test kind of experiment in style for you, but really nice. It turned out. I really enjoy it. I think it's fun. I love the dramatic lighting effects that you can get out of here, like we saw with the Batman piece too. So it's really, really nice.
Thank you.
And that is lot number.
Really, I just had the idea of I've drawn the Joker with this insane smile so often, like the insane grin, and I just thought his humor is broader than that. And I remembered there were some pictures of David Bowie reading, and David Bowie was always my fan cast for the Joker back in the day. And so I had this idea of what if the Joker was sitting waiting and reading a book, what would he read for a laugh? And I just immediately jumped to Cormac McCarthy's The Road. And so I just thought, okay, so he's waiting in an airport or something, waiting to travel, and just like he's just sitting there reading. And then I went, you know what, he's gonna be a little mussed up because why not? And then I decided, well, he's gonna have another guy who's waiting, but he's got the Joker smile next to him in the darkness. So he's subtly killed someone. He's got like this kind of little half smile while he's reading the most horrible book ever written. So I just thought, okay, that was a different take on the Joker for me.
Well, I like it a lot. When I sent out a mailing, I included this piece in it and mentioned that it was a la, David Bowie too. You can see it. It's perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Now, next up, we have the Galactus image that was behind you. I think you teased. Yeah, you finished it after you had sent the package out to me. So this one's really it's pretty spectacular. It's on 11 by the art's 11 by 17, and I think it's on by like 12.5 by 19 board. This is priced a bit more than the other ones at $1,200, but it's a very well rendered piece. I mean, it blew my mind when I saw this when you sent it to me in an email, and I already knew that I had the art in hand. I was like, oh, I would have loved to have had that one here and actually been able to see it in person because you put a lot of work in this one.
It was one of those things where it's I've painted a few just Galactus headshots, and my Galactus is I didn't like Galactus until the Mobius 2-issue series.
Sure.
I thought the design was too goofy. And I love, as an adult, I learned to love Kirby. But I found I love the helmet design, but I found the body almost like a bad cartoon character. And it didn't help when Byrne kind of reestablished that as the main look for Galactus. Then I saw Mobius's take, and I went, oh my God. And then it's like, I thought, what if Mobius and H.R. Giger got together and designed Galactus instead of like a cosmic cloud threatening the planet? And so this is what I came up with. And also lately, I've got this like fascinating. I'm fascinated with the idea of like free floating objects being illuminated as an inherent science fiction element or a fantasy element. So I basically threw 3 of those like to allow me to do the aerial perspective all the way up the body. So he's got one on the front of his helmet, one on his chest, and one on his belt. And who knows what they're for. And then there's also the little bit where it's like, I don't think if Galactus is born to be the eater of worlds, he wouldn't need machinery. So I figured just his body would just start consuming, breaking down and digesting the planet with like energy elements from his hands. And he'd have all these like smokestacks on his body, spewing out the detritus of a consumed world. So yeah, that's where I went.
Well, you went to the right place, I think. I mean, I thought it was fantastic. And obviously TMD1 Tariq, my good friend, he has claimed it. So thank you, Tariq.
Oh, wow. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Now, just we can talk about this after, but do you want me to send it to you to send to him? Because that way you get to see it.
Well, we can talk about it after.
Okay.
It all depends. It's not, the thing is, I know you pack well. A lot of times I don't have that confidence. And so, I might have said, send it to me, but I know that since you pack so well and, that's the single most important thing. And
you're not building confidence with the people bidding here.
Yeah. but we'll talk about that after the fact. I mean, if, and maybe, we'll work that out, and we'll talk with Tariq about that too and figure out what's best. I have a couple pieces, Galactus related pieces that Tariq has that I'm going to be shipping him at some point in the future. Wow. So we can figure it out after this is all over with.
Well, if you're sending him a bunch of pieces, it makes sense for me to ship it to you just so they all go together.
That would, I agree with you. All right, so let's see. What did I miss here? Did I say that? I don't think I said that. I think somebody's kind of massaging the language that I'm using here.
Someone's massaging my package? What?
Yes, exactly. See, I'm in trouble now. I said something about your packing on Thursday too. So apparently I can't. I don't know what to say, but thank you, Black White for touring.
All right. Okay. I'll take that as PR.
Yeah,
I'll use that as a pull quote in my next book. Richard,
exactly.
Nice package.
So here we go. Lot number 9, / omnibus pinup, but we don't I remember I asked you about this one. It's published, but we don't know in which volume it was put in because you didn't get a comp, I think, from Tim. But
Yeah.
this definitely is published, and we've got it priced at $700, and it's on 11x17.
Yeah, Tim is supposed to write me a short hack slash story at some point.
Oh, cool.
He is like, Local Man's a big hit, so I'm not gonna harass him to give me a little short story when he's actually got a hit on his hands in this market. But at some point, I'm going to draw a hack slash. I bounced an idea off him for a hack slash story I'd write for an anthology. I think he should absolutely do like a hack slash anthology and get a bunch of different creators who are fans of the work to do little short stories. But yeah, he asked me to do a pinup for his hack slash omnibus. I think it might be the third one. I'm actually losing track of how many are out there. I'll happily work with Tim, whatever he wants me to do. And Cassie Hack is sexy as hell and deals with monsters, so I'm good with that.
Exactly, it checks all the boxes for you.
Yeah.
All right, so lot 9 still available, $700, and it's a very, again, I love the technique because it almost feels there's like an old style printmaking quality to your line work that I really appreciate, kind of, and I see it here, and I think it's fantastic.
I actually colored this, but I think it's another case where I think the black and white's stronger than the colored piece.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, this one's still out there. Lot 10 is next. We're getting into some published covers again by Dynamite. You just mentioned these. This is the cover to, actually I put them out of order, I think, but this is the cover to Johnny Quest #2 on 11x17, an homage, of course, to the Miller Jansen Varley piece I think that this is up there in like the top 10 covers to homage, right? And it makes a whole lot of sense because it's such a dramatic image and it works so well. But I'm assuming you colored this one too, because again, I saw this and I'm like, gosh, whoever's coloring you really gets you. Here it is.
I colored this one too. I very careful. I had Dark Knight Returns right next to me when I was doing the initial colors. Tried to capture Lynn Varley as best I could with my limited abilities. But I gotta say, the best part of doing these Johnny Quest covers so far is drawing Bandit.
Really?
Yeah. Drawing that dog. Oh my God. See, the thing is, it's like Johnny Quest was on reruns when I was a child. And I thought it was this wonderfully weird series. It never really seemed to make sense, but I love that dog. And as an adult, coming back to it all these years later, getting to draw Bandit is just so much fun. The cover I'm working on now, is that 4 I'm working on now? Or 5? I'm losing track. I'm really leaning into the Johnny Quest weirdness. So it's a very tiny spot drawing, but it's a beautifully weird Johnny Quest theme type illustration. Again, Matt's letting me do crazy fun things.
That's cool. And actually, I didn't put them out of order because I know the next one is the cover to 3. But Alberto did pick this one up, and he mentioned in the chat too that it'll go nice next to his Johnny Quest 1 cover that he picked up from Bob Layton. So
that cover was gorgeous, wasn't it?
It really was. We had Bob on for some shows at the beginning of the year, and that was one of the pieces that he got to show off while we were, during the course of those conversations I had with him. And it turned out really nice. So.
There's part of me, I saw the Tom Rainey cover,
mm-hmm.
and I was so tempted. It's like, I know there's going to be an art collector who's going to be able to spend more on it than me, but it's like, it's so beautiful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Water and everything. Oh my God, it's so good. I think we're perpetually in a high watermark of the art being produced in this industry. Every year, everyone gets better. And it's humbling to be a part of it and inspiring to be a part of it. And it's a great time to be alive in terms of comics, I think.
Oh, it is. I see a lot of, comic illustrators putting in more effort, wanting to up their game. And I think that it kind of feeds on itself. You see, these 3 or 4 artists that have decided to start doing ink wash in their pieces. And, you can tell they want their art to stand up on its own without the coloring. Such that, and artist editions may have had a little influence in that when people are seeing those things printed in, black and white. Because you think about it, when they're upping their game and they're putting more, depth into the pieces, whether it's just through their illustration technique or ink washes. If they ever did an artist edition for some of those books, they would be fantastic, and they really would stand up on their own. And I think that it's got to collectively push all artists to want to work, and at least to always be pushing themselves.
I just saw the big black and white artist edition of Extremity on Daniel Warren Johnson's channel. I didn't know it was happening. They did a Kickstarter. So as soon as I get a moment, I'm going to move the money around and I'm going to buy it, because it just looks so good. And I already have my Batman Year One put aside at a retailer I'm really close with, but they're in Ottawa, so I'm going there for a signing in October. So that's what I'm getting. I have to wait till October to get my Batman Year One.
I get it. All right. Well, we got another Johnny Quest cover to look at right now. Right after that one, this is the cover to issue 3, so lot 11. Yeah, there you go. And this is, now we know this is you're happy drawing the dog.
It's like there's so much joy in the Johnny Quest animated series. It's really just a fun series. And from what I've read of the comic, even though Joe Casey's doing some really cool stuff here, I'm generally trying to stay away from what he's doing in terms of the alt covers. I'm trying to sell a vibe. I am, as much as a horror dark fantasy guy as I am, the chance to just capture happiness is such a wonderful thing to get to do. So just the idea of these two kids up with jetpacks flying through a city. I mean, like, when I was 12, if I got a chance to do that, you bet I'd probably die, but I would absolutely do it.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. I
want a jetpack right now.
Yeah.
Every time one of those darn things shows up on my feed, I have to watch these guys go out over the water or something on one of those, and regret the fact that I know I'll probably never be able to do it myself.
Oh, hey, thanks, Mazza. Hackslash Omnibus Volume 2.
Oh, is what it's from. Okay.
Yeah.
Mazza, thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have lot 11 still out there for anybody who's interested. This is priced at $8.50, again on 11 by 17. Then
I think Alberto just claimed it too. Am I understanding it right?
Well, he's saying I'll claim it if no one else.
Okay.
So he's being a gentleman. Okay. Sometimes we have shows where people just gobble everything up, and it frustrates other people in the chat. And Alberto knows full well he doesn't want to be the guy that everybody might cast dispersions of after the show. But okay, well, he says that's very great. Thank you, Alberto.
Thank you so much, Alberto. Oh my God, hang on 1 second. Can I reach it with my headphones on? No, hang on 1 second.
Okay. No problem. Alberto, you are the man. Thank you so much. And you're on the road still, I think. You're not even at home.
Headphones back on.
There you go. Uh-oh. Oh, this is for cover 4?
The next one. It's colored, but this is the next one. Stairway to Heaven.
Oh, very nice. I think they're, just the fact that you're coloring them too is just all, you can see in those in cover 2 and 3, they're so perfect.
And here's the black and white for the next Barbarella.
And we got to see the prelim piece that you did as well.
Yeah, you can see where it's like, so I drew all this stuff on separate. I drew her on a separate piece of paper. I even drew her dog. Wow, it's hard to navigate the camera. Drew a dog here. I knew how I was going to color this going into it. And I think the colors for this really turned out. It's very Mobius inspired. And again, floating rocks with lights behind them. So
yes. Yeah, well, Alberto's like, can I claim that for number 4 too? Not right now, Alberto, but we can talk about it, and I can certainly make sure that we can work it, something out when when it's available.
Yeah. So, Alberto, okay, we'll talk after.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Not a problem at all. But thank you, Alberto, again for picking up those 2 covers. You are the man. So let's see here. What do we got next? Okay, 12 and 13, a couple spot illustrations. We talked about Nosferatu earlier, and you had done, some work with this character in the past. I mean, 30 years ago, right? But
yeah.
It's just right up your alley as far as a character for you to work on.
Yeah, so this one, actually, this is the second of 2 Nosferatu pieces. The first one started as a sketch just for a promo because a lot of these pieces were worked on during my live streams. which is the main reason I'm doing them. Entertain people, and when I really can't afford to take commissions, I can choose to do something I know I can do within my time frame. So this was my attempt to do the different take on the Nosferatu getting hit by the morning sunlight, and I wanted the idea of like him being like disintegrated as the light starts coming through the window.
Well, you captured that. So yeah, I guess I probably should have showed the first one or the second one first.
Well, I didn't give you an indication of what order. This is the bigger one. The other one's smaller.
Now, on this one, did you do the lettering? Is that
I printed it out, and then I light boxed it. I have one of these massive, super thin LED light boxes. So I light boxed it, then I traced it around with a black marker. Then I went back in with some white paint to break it up and everything.
Okay.
Yeah, something simple like this, I'll just light box. If, like for the Dracula thing, and I wanted that texture, and I wanted that effect. And initially, I wanted my rubber stamps to do it. And there's no rubber stamps in this piece, by the way. As soon as I see rubber stamp in these pieces, I'll tell you. If it's something simple like that, it's actually no difference in time in terms of tracing it off, because I'm gonna have to work around it anyway.
Got it.
Yeah.
Claws out, says Marcus. Yeah, not Wolverine, but close enough. All right, so then lot 13 is another Nosferatu. So this is the one that you did before the other one, then?
Yeah, I did. I started just as a pencil drawing, and then I just saw what I was doing with the lighting, and I went, oh, I have to ink it. I can't not ink it. And this one, it's very subtle, very hard to see. There's some rubber stamp in here to just make the grays become more neutral and allow the whites to become brighter, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, without question. I love the way you basically did the shadows on the brick behind him, the brick wall. There's life there that you wouldn't normally get certainly wouldn't get in a kind of a comic book page, but because you're doing this as a fun illustration, you're really able to kind of just lay in a lot of different technique with this one. I think it's wonderful.
If I got to do a Batman black and white, I'd be totally approaching it like this.
Wow, that's the thing. That somebody's got to get you a gig there.
Well, it's I love ink. I just love ink as a medium. I think it's far more versatile than a lot of people give it credit for. I mean, just look at the history of what people were able to do with ink.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to just go crazy on the proper scale for that comic size. I upscaled it too much for the Conan book. I lost control of some parts of it. It was an interesting experience. I did some good work. I did some work I would love to redo. But this is much closer. This is what I'd be able to do for like an actual standard comic size piece. I'd be able to do a whole story like that. Quite.
Well, I think we all want to see that. And I guess maybe if you get to do the, witch related book or
there's already at this point, I got too many stories for the book, so I got to cut some out. They're all laid out. I got to figure out which ones I can get done in time. And one of them is decidedly entirely pen and ink black and white because it's supposed to harken back to that 1800s period. And I want that line work to evoke that. So.
Very cool. And then there's the Viking horror book that could.
That's going to be a more stark black and white and color book. Especially since there's going to be so many scenes where like things are burning. I want to have that in color.
Very cool. Well, this one's still available as well. We can take a look at lot 14 now. We're going back to the published stuff for a while. This is a cover to Red Sonja, issue 6 on 11 by 17. I think you redid the head of Red Sonja on this one, right? It looks like there was some rework.
After I did it and sent in the final piece, editor came back and said, she looks too pissed off.
Oh.
Because in the story, the guy proposing to her is an asshole. Right. So the whole thing is like a front. So I had to patch the face. And so it's I think it looks okay when it's a little bit further. But yeah, sadly it's a patch face. I know that upsets some people. But it was either that or re-ink the whole piece. Right.
Yeah, you can't do that. I mean there's too much work into it. Yeah. So that's this one. What is it? Bend the knee, says Marcus. Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's for a different reason, of course.
Yeah.
In the next scene, she chops his head off, says James.
Yeah, well, he's the ruler of. Okay, so Mark Russell was writing this arc, and so she basically Ukraine, the country she's from, is about to get overrun by a neighbor, and the royalty of Ukraine goes, well, we don't want to be here when we were overrun, so let's make someone else king or queen. So they made Red Sonja queen, and she has to deal with the mess. So it's a great story arc. So.
Well, it's a very nice illustration as well. So this is lot 14, priced at $9.50 for cover 2 Red Sonja 6 on 11 by 17. So we hit the halfway mark. And next up, we have lot 15. Now this is effectively we in art terms, this is a birth page. This is the birth page of God, basically, and Adam and Eve, because
first appearance of Jesus Christ and God and Adam and Eve.
We got all 3 first appearances on one page here. Maybe this is the first monkey appearance too. It's definitely the first appearance of those fruits in the tree that we talked about earlier as well. Yeah. But so this is page 1 from issue 1 from Second Coming. Everything else that we have are covers from Trinity and a few other things. But this is the only interior that we have available for the show. So this is priced at $600 on 11 by 17. I mean, what was it like approaching this for the first time? I mean, did you do a lot of character design and kicking things around to kind of get to a point where you felt comfortable drawing them?
Yeah, there was a lot of thought process on how to represent Jesus. I mean, there's the belief that Jesus was very dark skinned, and that's very popular. But I thought deep down, for the readership to be affected by the story and the way Mark was writing it, Jesus has to look like the photo of Jesus or the painting of Jesus that was on your grandmother's TV growing up. And very similar with God, like looking at Leonardo and everything. I mean, he's largely based on, oh my God, what's his name from Secession? Brian Cox. Kind of a cross between Brian Cox and Chris Christopherson, but with actual eyebrows. And it was just so much fun to thank you so much, Stingray. Thank you.
Thank you, Stingray.
Yeah,
I can see Chris Christopherson. Now that you've said that, I'm not. Every time I'm going to read the rest of that story, that's all I'm going to be able to think of.
Yeah, I just thought that Christoph, especially in the Blade movies, Christopherson got that old cranky across so well, and that mixed with Brian Cox. So I figured Chris Christopherson with a slightly Scottish accent is God, and just imagine him screaming cheese and crackers, and yeah. So this was so much fun. It's like it was a little reluctant. I hung onto this page for a very long time, and when I was looking through what I was willing to send you, I said, you know what, I can let this go now. I've enjoyed looking at this page for a long time. I've enjoyed having it in my own work collection, but I went, you know what, it's time for someone to have it in their collection. So that's why it's in this lot.
Well, we all appreciate you putting it up for sale, Richard, and Stingray definitely thanks you for it as well. So I appreciate that. And the thing is, it's great. You've held on to this for over 5 years. And I've
had offers. I sold a couple of the other subsequent pages almost immediately, but this first page was really important to me. So I feel it's like, okay, I can move.
All right. Well, thank you, Stingray, for that. We'll go ahead and take a look at lot 16. We're going to get into a whole set of covers. I know when I showed off the original art on Thursday, I kind of previewed a lot of these. This first one from lot 16 is from Only Begotten Son. This is the cover to issue 1 on 11 by 17. And, a lot of times, like maybe these would have been done on two different 11 by 17 pieces. I like the fact that you did the top piece with the figures along with, the baby and the ship as well, all on one board. It just makes it for a more complete piece.
Actually, one little thing on the top, on the far right, there's a tiny little drawing of Lucifer. And when I drew him there, Mark initially planned, Lucifer does continue to appear even though Jesus kills him. But I thought he was going to be a bigger part. That's why I included him in the crowd shot. But I felt it was really great coming back for another arc, establish all the cast, and then have a nice, I think, powerful image. And it's who knows when I'll get to ever draw Superman leaving Krypton. So this is my chance to get across. I have a lot of affection for Superman, so it's part of why I'm really happy that the next arc is going to be Superman homages. To the point where I'd seen Superman Red, White, and Blue, seen some of the stuff for it. I saw there was some controversy over it, but it was like nonsense controversy. But someone posted the Daniel Warren story online last week, and I'd never seen it before. And Superman's one of the few characters, when done amazingly well, chokes me the hell up. Like in the scene in All-Star Superman when he stops to save the woman from committing suicide. I mean, that hits me. But that Daniel Warren Johnson story and Superman Red, White, and Blue, literally, I'll admit I cried a bit when I finally read it because it was so. I'm getting choked up now. Shut up. It's just beautiful. So yeah, I have a lot of affection for Superman in a way I didn't have when I was a kid. For me, it was always Batman or Green Lantern. But now, as an adult, it's like the idea of the depth of storytelling you can do with Superman that you really can't do with any other character.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so every time I get to do a really Superman-y reference with Second Coming, I love it. So
very cool. So this is 16, still at $1,000, and we'll look at some covers here. Well, the 6 covers, I think, to Trinity.
Yeah, I never sent that to Cadence because already at that point I was like thinking about leaving.
Right, exactly. So this is the cover to issue 1 from Second Coming Trinity. Yeah. Price at $1,100 on 11x17 as well, and this kind of has the inset characters on it as well that you'd mentioned earlier when we were talking about
all those old Silver Age covers. At some point, production forgot we were supposed to do this, and they just ended up running my full art covers. And then I got told, well, one of the covers, when they saw it, because they were ahead of production, they saw it and said, okay, we have to do this cover full, and we'll say that. But I really love the Silver Age stuff. I really love getting Leonard's art. I'm pushing for Leonard to do alt covers for the next arc. Because I think Leonard's so good, he deserves more cover work. But so this is my way of getting Leonard, who I dragged into this project. And anyway,
yeah, I love it. You have the kaiju in the back, and again, just really well illustrated. So this is so again we have all 6 covers from this one. So this is the first one. The next one is you have a Warhol-ish image in the back, which came out really well when you colored it too, and great illustration. This one's priced at $1,000, which is lot 18.
Yeah. So for this one, this is when I was talking about like the paste up idea. So I drew the Jesus Christ big on a separate sheet of paper, and then I did tight pencils for the entire environment. And then in Photoshop, I merged them together, and then using Photoshop, duplicated the Jesus heads, and then inked everything else, because that was the only way to get that really Warhol precise replication of the imagery.
Mm-hmm. Well, back in the day, these would have been all stats glued on the page. So
yeah, and there would be all that dark yellow,
like a more finished work of art the way you did it.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's like, again, it's like, I think if I can use the tools to make the artwork more whole and last longer, because this will last. I mean, if I could have easily, there's actually a company near me that still does photostats. I could have used them and then pasted it up, but no, it would have damaged the board.
Yep, I completely agree. So yeah, it's very nice in person. And so again, lot 18, $1,000, Second Coming Trinity number 2 cover. Number 3 is next, and you always have to smile when you see this image. I mean, it is very. You draw kids rather well, but this is
I one. This was okay. So, Super Baby becomes a big problem in this arc, and I was thinking it's like, and when you get, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't read it. I wanted to draw the baby at the scale of the problem he was in the story, so I basically made Kaiju Baby.
Yep.
But I didn't just want to draw a threatening kaiju baby. I wanted a kid that reminded you of those videos running down a hallway, looking around a corner, having the surprise face, and running back down the hall. So it's like, so yeah, that was really fun. And then also like with all basically doom lighting, but he's having this like, what the heck's going on?
Well, and once again, the coloring is beautiful on this thing. So yeah, I love this. I mean, again, it's in stark contrast to a lot of the the work that we traditionally see in comics. Your approach to drawing and just the inking technique alone is what really makes these fun to look at as as a work of original art. So yeah, this is great. And it's good hearing your thought process behind why you chose to do certain things with these, especially this one.
I got to say, I do have I have the painting background, I got all that stuff, but I have a great resource. One of my good friends is Dave McCaig, who is arguably the best colorist in the industry right now. So a lot of times I'll send it to him and he'll give me some really important feedback. And I think his feedback on this one was blow out the light around the kid's head more.
Mm-hmm.
That was really important.
Well, it works really well. So this is lot 19, priced at $1,000, and then we have lot 20. This is covered issue 4 from Trinity.
This is the one I think where they stopped doing the sidebar because they just thought this image worked as a full art cover.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's another pure Superman homage. If you read the issue, you know what happens after this, but I wanted to capture again the sense of joy of flying and strength and power and the relationship with his mom. So
yeah, I like this one a lot. I mean, you can tell. I mean, just from the sheer joy in this one, it's really fun.
Yeah, I gotta say, this was, I think, the happiest cover experience. Like I just felt happy drawing all of it. I hate drawing trucks, and I enjoy drawing this truck.
Oh man, well, it shows. It definitely shows. Let's see, and thank you, number one Marvel fan, for renewing your membership in the channel. It's always appreciated. Now let's see, cover to issue 5 is next as lot 21, and this one's priced at $1,000, just like the others. And again, just really wonderful piece, well colored, everything. This is on 11 by 17 too, and yeah, he's getting a little more angry.
well,
I have to read this.
It's an extrapolation of a conflict that happens in the comic. Jesus is so empathic and understanding, and he has the wisdom. So he suggests something that's inevitable, and you can't suggest something inevitable that a parent doesn't want to a parent who's a superhero.
Mm-hmm.
So Jesus kind of close. Mark has early on had Jesus eating a banana, and I thought it was a gag to the Kirk Cameron, banana disproving evolution. But it's just like he thought it was funny that Jesus was always eating a banana. So this again, it's basically showing Sunstar's natural reaction is stupid anger. Jesus is kind of oblivious to the negative actions of his good intentions, and the little bit of damage in the background suggesting something's wrong with the baby.
Right.
So, and the facial expression is based on me looking in the mirror.
Well, they came out really, really well. So this is lot 21. Now this is the last Second Coming cover we have. The cover to issue 6 from Trinity, 11 by 17 again priced at $1,000. And another really well done. Even the lens flares when you colored it are perfect. Yeah,
I'm reluctant to do anything that's purely digital.
Mm-hmm.
But after doing it, after I did the real blowout, I went, you know what? The lens flares were kind of there in the Richard Donner film. They were definitely there in the Singer film.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went, you know what? This one feels the most cinematic of all the covers. So, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. It's going to be buried by the logo anyway. So, but I felt it worked on the piece.
Oh, it definitely did. So again, this one's at $1,000, priced like the other covers we have, and this was the cover to issue 6. So now, actually, this next one is not a published piece. I forgot about that. It's I thought we had a bunch in a row, but the lot 23. This was something for fun, right? Savage Sword with Betty and Veronica. Just something that you had to get out of your system. I take it.
As soon as I had the idea, I mean, and honestly, it's like, so I have 2 ideas I'd love Archie to let me do. I'd love it, right? I actually sent a message to an Archie editor, never responded. I would love to do Aliens and Archie. So it's Riverdale is a space station, and you got the Riverdale students living on it, and then there's an alien attack.
The crossover you never knew you needed.
I just figured it's like, just do it. People would go crazy for it.
Oh,
and then I just thought, Swords of Betty and Veronica, because I love that I think everyone loves that Adam Hughes miniseries. So short, so beautiful. And it's just like, I went, you know what, it'd be really cool if Betty and Veronica were just, doing the Red Sonja riff, and Riverdale's a town that is your base of operations, and all the dudes are like just regular dudes in like this Middle Ages type thing. And these are like two violent, incredibly efficient swordswomen with Sabrina as their occasional wizard companion. And it was just so much fun. I had to draw it. And I think I did. I think I caught it. These are essentially like, these would be my initial designs if Archie came to their senses. And then after I post this, my friend Jim Zub says Archie asked him for a pitch for a Sword and Sorcery Archie series, and then they never followed through on it. So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's.
I'm sure there's an audience.
Of course, I definitely think there would, and I like the aliens idea too.
Yeah.
So I saw Lord of Fleck said, just Lord of Fleck, the pieces that don't sell today will be posted to CAF and the classifieds, and they'll be up there for a short amount of time while we still keep these pieces available. So if you can't purchase something during the show, there is the opportunity after it's all done.
Yeah, I think that's great that you're going to be able to. I mean, we
always sell a few
pieces. The show to the middle of the week, right? So
exactly. A lot of people can't watch live, so it's it just gives us and CAF's got the biggest collector community out there, so making it available after the show was I didn't do that when we first started doing these, but it was a wise choice to do that about a year ago, and it's done pretty well since then. Now, this is another Dynamite book, Starfinder. This is a cover to issue. It is the cover, right? Because I only read issue 1 online, and I couldn't tell. It was like they had 2 different images. So maybe there were 2 different covers for it. But this is the one that you did, and it's awesome. This one's priced at $900. And it was a good read too. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I would have loved to have read it.
Oh shoot! I'm going to talk with Nick Barucci.
I talked to him back when I did the Red Sonja one. I never got a copy. I ran into Nick at New York Comic Con about it, and he says once a series is far enough in the past, it's impossible to get the comps out because they're in the warehouse. And so if I don't get the comps right away, I'm not going to. So and I thought I'd be able to find a local store, but everyone was sold out. So yeah.
Well, that's a good thing then. If they were.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, that's
So I did all covers for the whole arc, but I felt the first 2 were the most attractive, so that's why I only sent the first 2.
Yes, Marcus. No comps. That was one. Yeah, you mentioned that Dynamite doesn't send comps all the time. Neither does Mr. Seeley, I think he said.
Well, for Tim, it's understandable for Tim because he's self-publishing, right? So then it becomes time out of his life to actually do this. So
yeah, that makes sense. Well, this one's I did. It was a fun read. Kind of had a Guardians of the Galaxy kind of vibe, but with a cool kind of twist about space travel. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So actually, I was recommended for the assignment by Eric Mona, who's one of the guys running Paizo, who produces the game. So I've done some work directly for them, and at some point, I got to do something. Like the idea is, I want to do a mini comic that only releases at Gen Con. So a little like Pathfinder, Starfinder comic that only is exclusively only at Gen Con, because I think that would be a fun experience.
Yeah, mentioning that, I saw earlier. Where was that comment? Mike Bravanek had mentioned loved the TSR RPG art.
Yeah, so. I did that. Oh my God, that's going back to the early 90s or early aughts. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. What do we got next? I have the cover to issue 2. So it's Starfinder as well. So this one's $900, lot 25 on 11x17. And I think like this character was introduced later in issue 1. So I didn't quite I haven't got to read this issue to kind of figure out what's going on with them, but I will after the show is over. Wow. So, and
all the covers they did, like they interlock.
They do. I didn't even look at that. Did not notice that.
Yeah.
Dude, wait a minute. You're right. All right. Sorry for not noticing that, Richard.
No, well, you only see two of them. You only notice. In fact, two of the covers I drew on one piece of board side by side to make it easier for the match, because it was tricky to match these two because they're on different boards.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's part of why I didn't send them, because like really odd size. I mean, I did a series of covers for Deadweights from Ahoy, and they're all the main characters in a police lineup. So I drew them on two really long or wide pieces, and it's like, well, I'm never mailing these. They're just too big. So.
All right. Well, now, yeah, that's cool. Makes them even more interesting. So this was lot 25. We have 3 more lots to look at. And next up is a pencil illustration. The only other one we got, this succubus illustration that should be published somewhere. I mean, that's cool. Should be in a little story anthology of horror. I think this is on 11 by 14, priced at $200. I picture you doing these in your spare time.
Yeah. It's like, it took about maybe 2 hours. And it was all pencil running. Basically, I just had the idea of like, I wanted the wings throwing a shadow down on her. Mm-hmm. And I like the idea of like, I just finished watching a news story about like the abandoned neighborhoods in Detroit. And I just thought, what if there were monsters living there? And I think that's the basis of the movie Barbarian. Essentially monsters living in these abandoned suburban neighborhoods. I just thought of her sitting on top of a crumbling chimney looking for prey. So yeah, and again, this is from that phase where it's like I just looked at the Kopinski book and I wanted to do a bunch of pencil drawings. So that was really fun. I was trying to think, there was something else. It flew out of my head. So there was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember what it is.
No problem. So we got 2 more to look at, and both of these are published pieces. Lot 27 is the cover to Vampirella Dark Reflections issue 4.
Yeah, I was really, this is also going to have a foil cover, a virgin cover, and a black and white cover.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, on top of like the regular edition. So it's like, I'm like, wow. So it's like, I think Dynamite likes me a bit. So.
Yeah, I don't think they do that for all the covers. I think, I follow their shop a little bit. So yeah, but that's nice. That's, I mean, maybe you'll get another Vampirella cover in your future.
Yeah. The one thing I was going to say, years ago, I did my very first sketchbook. It was called Idle Hands. And I wanted to do another one. Then COVID happened. And I've done too much work that would go into a sketchbook since then. So what I'm going to do is, instead of doing smaller sketchbooks, I'm going to do a really, really, really big sketchbook in the not too distant. Closer, not as crazy as Kim Jong-Yi's books, but inspired by. I want to do like a big 250 page sketchbook because I got that much work for it. Oh, cool. And so things like the Succubus will eventually be published in that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is that's good. Yeah. Well, you know, Richard, you can, whenever you have anything to promote, you just need to hit me up with an email. Now that we are in communication, I'm happy to push any PR out there that I can to help out.
Well, Kevin will be launching on Zoop in October, so I'll definitely be reaching out for that.
Well, I will. Yeah. Well, I can tell you, Zoop reaches out to me about doing video shows a lot because I've done a few as favors to a couple of creators or friends of creators that I know, and I tend to shy away from them, not only because I just don't have a lot of time, but I would be more than happy to like bring you on and maybe do a shorter show just talking about the project to get the word out. So you let me know when and when it's launching, and I would just be more than happy to do that for you.
All right. It's going to launch early October. Or probably right at the start of October. So late November would probably be best. And I'll have a bunch of new artwork that I'm not going to show until then. So
sweet.
Yeah.
Well, that'll make it more fun. Now, Jeff Moy has, you can tell, I think Jeff is a Star Trek fan, but he has picked up that Aliens walkie image, and it is still available, Jeff. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Jeff. I think, Jeff, were we talking that you bought a zombie cover I did?
I don't know, Jeff. We actually did my last week's show was with Jeff, the sales show. Jeff is well known for his Legion of Superheroes 5-year arc in Legionnaires and a few other related things. So, but yeah, thank you, Jeff. We appreciate that. So the Vampirella one is still available. That was lot 27, and the last lot that we have available is back over to a published piece from West of Sundown. And this
Another
is
Sealy joint.
yes, the Sealy project. Yeah, I had Sealy on. Gosh, it was probably like 3 months ago, and we had a few West of Sundown covers. I think one of them sold. You know, they're really. I mean, it's. I read that. That I think it was like, what was it, 8 issues? But I'd have to go back and look now. But it was a fun read, definitely.
Yeah, this was again. It's like Tim wanted me to do a cover. It was wonderful. Again, the carte blanche let me be creative, so that's when I really dive in. And I started I looked at about 1,000 different Western covers and movie posters,
Mm-hmm.
and then I saw Hang 'em High, and I just thought, oh my God, do the vampire in front of the sign and just really just take the composition from Hang 'em High and do her justice. And that was, I'm still very happy with how this did. It was like I didn't print out the sign, so what I did is I traced off their logo. I made it look like the weathered wood, and then I inked it on the board. So that was kind of fun. But because I wanted that organic feel that the weathered wood had in both the Hang 'em High sign and for this.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just yeah.
No, you totally got it. And Jeff did confirm that you guys are friends on Facebook, so he was the one you were chatting with.
Oh, okay. Well, Nick told me in New York that he said, reach out to my editor and take care of it, and I did, and nothing happened. So I just assumed. I mean, that's now, my God, that's like 6 years ago, 5 years ago. I would love to get it. I'd be less inclined to bug Nick about that than ask him to let me do a Red Sonja one shot.
Well,
I got an idea for a Red Sonja one shot called Kill Red Sonja, but yeah.
All right. Well, this one's still available as well. Lot 28. But yeah, Nick Perucci, he can make things happen. I mean, he is the boss over there. So yeah, I think. Well, I have a list of stuff. If you want to send it to me, I can make sure Nick gets it, and we'll just move it along. Make sure that
Well, the thing is, it's like from a creator standpoint. If I was going to bug Nick, I'd want to bug him along the lines of letting me do something creative with some of his properties.
Sure.
Bugging him for a cover when I could probably go to eBay, maybe. It feels like a waste of his time in his position, right? I mean, it may make him feel good to help out, but I'd much rather take his time up and together build something that we can both enjoy making.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No, it does. I mean, Alberto, he said that he'd even send you his personal copies. That's the kind of, but and trust me, Nick, he's very tied to everything we do here, and he's tied to the community, and he's when we bring something like this up to him, he usually kind of sets things right if it hasn't been. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. But I get where you're coming from. Yeah. Getting to do a gig or two that you have in mind with properties and franchises that he has access to, which he has a ton. I mean, I think that I get why you should initiate that conversation with him. You've got his email. You have to, right?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, I will make sure after the show you do.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe we'll work that out. He has free Friday nights. He's free Friday night only because he's streaming every Friday night at 7 o'clock on his.
Nick streams
every Friday night. He has he created this kind of I won't call it the home shopping network of a channel, because there's a lot of just I don't know, there's a lot of content on the channel, but he does do an art sale show on Friday nights at 7 o'clock. Sometimes he talks so much he doesn't sell any art, but it's a 1 hour show, and the channel is called.
I gotta see this. I gotta check that out.
It's I'll make sure I get you that link as well. The EXP. Right. Yeah, he does a good job, because he used to be he used to hawk on the home shopping network way back in the day when Dynamic Forces and was out there, and that was really how he got his start. He's good on camera.
But I gotta say, so this is just an aside from thing, and tell me if I should stop digressing. IDW and the artist edition things. Mm-hmm. I always felt that was a niche that Nick was going to do.
Well, he might have just.
Thinking about the special editions he did way back in the day.
Sure.
I just felt that would have been a natural for him.
Yeah, and there were things before Scott Doonbeer started doing artist editions that were very similar to that. But I know he and Scott are, they're not, I don't think they're like closest friends, but they know each other really well. And maybe Nick just said, you know what, I'm going to let Scott kind of run with that concept at IDW, and now Scott's doing his own thing and taking it to whatever the next level or whatever else he envisions
I'm a little
for
kid
it, right?
waiting. That Dave Stevens book. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so, and I mean, I have 5 artist editions here, so no, I mean, I'm a huge fan as well, and I'm very curious to see how they're going to take it. Hasn't been what I know. Yeah, TJ. You typically Nick goes about an hour and a half or more, even though he says it's a 1 hour show. He even though he's overlapping, I think, a show behind him, because they tried to as a channel, they have like this window. I think it's like 6 to 10 where they try to have 4 1 hour shows. Wow. So they're talking about comics and writing and, you know, different things all through the week.
It's amazing. I've never heard of it.
Yeah. He started it. I think it would have been probably 3.5 years ago. So, you know, you wouldn't know it was all him, but, you know, he was kind of the one of the idea people behind starting the channel on YouTube. And then he worked with a lot of other store owners and content creators to kind of flesh it out. But yeah, I'll make sure you have the links so you can see him.
All right, very cool. Yeah, I gotta say, it's I'm not surprised that I haven't seen it, because YouTube is terrible at really showing you the stuff you want to see. It's like, I've had so many people who are surprised I've been streaming for over a year on Sunday nights. They're like, "You're streaming?"
I didn't know.
It's like, I know. I post about it every week, at least 2 or 3 times. Mm-hmm. I do little special I just learned that you should do PNGs for thumbnails. I was doing JPEG, so everything was fuzzy as hell.
Right.
So a friend of mine, I basically did a Facebook, brain trust. How do I stop making my YouTube thumbnails fuzzy? And the guy said, "I'm not sure, but maybe try PNG." Did it perfect. Right. So it's a huge learning curve, but it's like, I'm pretty happy. I got 750 or so subscribers, which feels good. Nowhere near, like, I guess if I did a political show, I'd probably have like 10,000 now. But it's just pure art. I'm talking about art. I'm making art. Top of every show, I talk about either a new art book or an old art book that's a favorite in my collection. And then I basically try and go no more than an hour and a half, because I find that past an hour, I start losing people. So I do about 10 to 20 minutes on art books, and then crafting art for the rest of the stream.
Okay. Well, I'm going to check it out.
Okay.
Definitely. And really, when it comes time, maybe in mid-September, hit me up with some dates once you're, closer to the Zoop launch, and I'll make sure we get you on, and we can talk about the rewards level, the project, and and a few other things. So
I came up with, the Zoop guys love it. I came up with a weird reward for this book. I'm going to do a gallery of famous people from this witch world, right? From all sorts of periods. And so one of the rewards you can get is you can pay to have your name and your likeness turned into a historical character from this world. And only women or non-binary trans people can be witches, because that's just part of the world. But you can be a vampire, you can be a witch hunter, you can be a demon, you can be a werewolf, a golem, like Frankenstein. So you can choose what you are, or you can just be like a historian or researcher from this, like, just all sorts of weird stuff. And it's going to be a limited number of them, because it's me drawing more stuff for the book, but it's going to be like 4 per page. And then you get the original art of you drawn as that character.
Well, you'd have to have it. That would be that's got to be part of the reward, right?
Yeah.
To actually own the artwork. Yeah, I have actually, again, that's the kind of guy Nick is. I have a Vampirella cover that has me drawn on it, and then the other one. So I basically have 2 Vampirella covers, believe it or not. We did 4 different Kickstarters that were related to the channel, and that's so cool. So I know, as art collectors, getting the opportunity to have your likeness in a book is rare and very fun to have happen.
Yeah, it's going to be a little tricky, because I'm also going to be writing a biography, like a fictional biography of. So like if you did it and said I'm Bill Cox, I could do I check with you. Do you want to be William or Bill Cox in this? And then like we'll decide like what type of like, you know, I'm a witch hunter. I just saw witches and inherent evil in this world. So this is what I did. And I was mostly operative in the 1700s. Great. I'm good. That basically, you know, Ray, he was a famous witch hunter. He did this burning. He did this burning, this burning. And then he just disappeared. And all it was found was all his clothes full of tiny frogs that were all dead. Like something like that, like little weird, almost like Mignola history type bits.
Sure.
And so everyone's gonna have that. And then, you know, with that now created, theoretically, you would be a historical character I could reference in a story later. Then I'd reach out to you and say, hey, can I use your character in this story? And then you would know that your character, and I'd use your likeness.
Yep.
And you get the credit because likeness for William Cox, Witch Hunter, is Bill Cox, Comic Card Fans.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's I'm going to keep an eye on it. And I saw Michael DeFontes mentioned that they've picked up some of the books that you've recommended on your channel. So thank you, Michael, for that.
You know, if you have any audience at all, I think it behooves you to encourage and support other artists and to get information out to artists who want it. As small as my audience is, compared to some channels, I want to, I mean, it was so hard for me to find all the information I have over my career. I want to make it as easy as possible for other people to get it. So that's the teacher in me,
great.
I guess.
Yeah. No, I mean, I firmly believe in doing everything I can to promote the arts. I think that's why have a platform like this and not utilize it to do a lot of good. So, yes, well, it's a little premature birth though, Tariq.
Yeah, but he might end up being a werewolf.
But hey, before we sign off today, I'll just recap the pieces that didn't sell really quickly so everybody knows what's available. Like I mentioned, I will be posting these pieces to Comic Card Fans as well. So anybody who has second thoughts or maybe wants to see a better scan of the pieces, they're going to be in my CAF gallery and in the classifieds. It'll be real easy for you to find them. It'll probably be about 3 hours after the show when I get it all posted. But for those of you who did claim artworks, please shoot me an email. I know Bat Kid Voodoo emailed me almost like right after he claimed it. Anybody else who claimed any artworks, I know you all, email me, include your mailing address when you do, and we'll work out all the details related to that. But here, let me just race through the pieces that did not sell. Lot 1 did sell to Jeff, so we have Lot 2. That was the Babs 3 cover, priced at $850. We also had Lot 4 available. That was the Demon illustration, priced at $300. Then we had the Christopher Lee Dracula illustration, priced at $350. Lot number 6. Lot number 7, the Joker illustration, still available for $400. And lot number 9, that hack slash pinup from an omnibus. I think it was
Omnibus 2.
Yep, Omnibus 2. This one's $700. Lot number 9. Lots 10 and 11 went to Alberto, picking up those Johnny Quests. We appreciate that. And then we have lot 12, the Nosferatu image at $350, and lot 13, another Nosferatu illustration priced at $250. Then we have the Red Sonja cover, priced at $950 to issue 6. And then over to the Second Coming covers. This is from Only Begotten Son, issue 1, priced at $1,000. We have the Trinity number 1 cover, priced at $1,100. Lot 17. Lot 18 is Trinity 2, priced at $1,000. 19 is Trinity 3, priced at $1,000. Trinity 4 is Lot 20, priced at $1,000. 21 is Trinity 5, priced at $1,000 as well. And the last Second Coming cover is lot 22, covered at Trinity 6, priced at $1,000. We also have the fun illustration of Betty and Veronica if they were in the Savage Sword world, priced at $500 for lot 23. Covered a Starfinder number 1, priced at $900, and number 2 priced at $900 as well. Interlocking covers. Now I'm aware of that. And then we have the Succubus illustration at $200 for lot 26, the Vampirella cover at $1,100 for lot 27, and finally the West of Sundown issue 1 alt cover for lot 28, priced at $1,000. And I got them all.
Right.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we'll talk, Alberto, definitely.
Yeah.
And thank you, Stingray, for shooting the email. Well, Richard, this was a lot of fun. I'm glad we had the time to do this, man. We've been emailing, for a little while about it, and and I really enjoyed talking with you. I think there's a lot more stories to be told now that we've gotten this first one out of the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I look forward to working with you. Doing any PR I can on the upcoming Zoo project.
Absolutely.
And anything else that I can do to help you out, let me know. And if I don't have the links to Richard's socials in there right now for Instagram and Patreon, but I will make sure that they get in there at the end of the show. So if you're watching this on the rewind, the show description on Facebook and YouTube will have links out there where you should definitely follow Richard. And that's how the best ways to keep on top of anything that's new that Richard's working on, or anything he has upcoming. I mean, that'll be the place to find out. Anything, yeah.
And honestly, in return, if there's anything I can do to help comic art fans, I mean, there's one thing I might be, well, it's too political. I'll shut up about it. But if there's anything I can do to help you guys out, because if you guys ever do any charity outreach, I do tend to do a lot of charity work. My main thing is food banks.
Oh, great.
So a lot of times I'll have like an art sale, like at the start of COVID, the lockdowns. Back when I was still with, who, I opened up my commissions at a much greatly reduced rate, totally just to raise money for my local food bank because they were empty. No one was donating food because everyone was terrified that they weren't going to be able to have their own food.
Right, they couldn't get out. Right,
and ended up going over 100 pieces, and
wow.
They went so fast. Basically, art rep emails me, says, "Oh, we've already sold 30. What do you want to do with the cap?" And I said, "Well, 30 pieces is a lot, but it can't go higher. Let's just let it run for the week and see where we end up." And then I think on Thursday, so we're at 110. No, I think we're at 107, but some got missed. They got added after. And I went, "Oh, stop!"
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, because my real work started up, and suddenly, because I thought I could do a bunch, I did a bunch right off the bat because everything was pencils down. Then say, "Oh no, we're allowed to work. We're going to pay you. Don't worry." All right. I went, "Uh-oh." So I think it took me a year to finish all 110 pieces.
That's still, you were very responsible to the 107 people that got in there. I mean, that's a lot of work. Even doing 2 illustrations a week, that's, fit it into your regular schedule. It's not easy, but no, that's one. And I can tell you, there are opportunities where I really might hit you up on that. It's nice.
I'm a big believer in helping as many people as possible. I mean, I'm blessed. I got a good career. I got a nice place to live. There's people who can't say either of those things. So any chance to help people is of paramount importance to me. So.
Well, I appreciate that. And then we did have one extra claim. Jeff Moy claimed lot number 4. And so that was the backlit demon. If I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, there it is right there.
All right. Nice. I like his taste. He also bought this cover I did for a book called Rags. It was my homage to, remember Scourge at the Battle of Galabru in Thor? So I did a riff on Rags is a weird zombie book. It's basically mostly naked army vet suffering with PTSD going through a zombie apocalypse. So I drew her in a bikini in the Scourge pose with like the M16, completely surrounded by zombies. And coloring that was fun. I feel that was one of my better colored covers too. And what I think I drew the Thor from Ragnarok, so the skull face with the bottom jaw. I drew that in the crowd, and then I drew one of the figures from the back wearing like overalls, and it said Simonson Electric on the back. And what I did.
Did you see in the intro? I actually put the what was it? Did it say? Now I'm trying to remember what it exactly it had on the back of the jacket. It was from where was that? I can't even find it now. I have to go through my own stuff here. I don't have it, but I can play it at the moment. But that's so funny.
Yeah. Murdoch. Yeah. They asked me to do a cover. I think they wanted me to do another cover, but then things got crazy with the production schedule. So. Oh,
that's right. You had the pace construction thing. Yeah. I remember that the orange jacketed gentleman who was going to build the gorilla faced, fortress, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it had pace construction on there. Well, I threw that image into the intro.
I think Leonard did that on his own. I don't think
Oh, I figured that was you.
I did the layouts, but I just did a sign. I think Leonard did the finishes on it.
But he put the name. You didn't put your name on there?
No.
Oh, I thought that was your
I thought it was a lovely thing for Leonard. I don't remember doing it. I doesn't mean I didn't, but it's not. It doesn't sound like me. It sounds like something Leonard would do because Leonard's a hell of a nice guy. Have you ever had Leonard on?
No, I have not. I mean, I love his work. I mean, I would love to. I mean, if
I don't know if he has a setup to do any streaming.
Well, talk
and
to him about
he's
it.
basically a hermit, but I'll drop him an email.
Okay.
And see if he'd want to do it.
Well, you can always reference the show. He can always look at it, see
Absolutely.
if it's something that would fit. But no, he's been in the business a long time. I'd love to chat with him. Yeah, without question.
And I believe he doesn't. He only sells his work at conventions.
Mm-hmm.
So I bet he has a nice stash. Like he's doing Star Wars now.
Right.
I mean, yeah, he's doing Second Coming, but he's doing Star Wars now.
Well, we have a lot of Star Wars fans in the audience. I can tell you that. There's a lot of guys who that's their only focus on comic card fans is collecting. They branch out a little bit, but Star Wars being the main focus. But let them know that I'd love to, and we could email about it and see if it's something that we can work out. Oh,
Robert, I'll drop him an email. You know what? I'll do an introductory email, get you both in there, because he's terrible about responding.
Okay.
Oh.
And Robert Perman picked up lot 26. Thank you, Robert. Okay. Well, I will get these on CAF after the show is all done here. But again, everybody, we both appreciate you guys tuning in and hanging out with us today. It was a lot of fun. I always like getting to meet a creator who I've never spoken with before because there's a little bit of research and there's a little bit of nervousness that goes into talking to somebody you haven't met before. But I felt like I knew you from the moment we started, Richard. This was really a fun conversation.
I try to be somewhat affable.
You did a good job. So everybody, thank you again. And we will, I know everybody's been saying they've been emailing me. Great. But again, enjoy the rest of your weekend. And, you'll see me again. I think Monday night I have an interview show with a collector. So look forward to that. But enjoy the rest of your weekend and we'll see you again soon. Take care.
All right.